Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. I am your host, Roddykat, and you can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter, and you can find me at CBCaps on Instagram.
South Carolina with Columbia down the way.
And sound effects that you have heard come from none other than one agent _70 on Twitter and Instagram.
What's up, everybody?
Okay. You gotta love it. The bevy of sound effects. the bevy of shout outs for your town. Anywho, oh, actually, on that note, I guess go ahead and get this out of the way. You know, it's kind of a slightly sad note, but a couple of days ago from this recording was March 9th, which was sadly the death of one Biggie Smalls, aka Notorious B.I.G., aka Biggie. So you know,
Christopher Wallace.
Christopher Wallace, exactly. So you know, it's you know, if as sad of a moment as I guess you do what you can, and at a young age too, because I think it was what 24.
Yep, he was only 24. I remember where I was when I heard that news. I was like, damn.
Mm-hmm. So you know, we appreciate the hip hop arts over here, and so you know, continue to rest in peace to the man's, and you know, celebrate his music, even though some of it is kind of problematic. But you know, hey, at this point,
it was of its time.
It was very much of its time, and actually still is. But you know, like I said,
right. And I was about to say, some of it is. So, you know, what's funny is that some of it is of its time, and some of it is evergreen, which is wild. You know, you still hear people bumping it everywhere, and you know, sporting events. There's a couple songs that are just mainstays. So,
indeed. So you know, I wanted to go ahead and get out of the way while I was thinking about it, and so now we get on to the rest of this, the intros. In that, you can find this here program on the Coast of the Podcast Network, aka the CSPN.US.
Do it today.
You can also find us on your podcast personal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coast of the Podcast Network SoundCloud page. And folks, we are going to get into some comic books because you know that's kind of the name of this program. Go figure. And with that, we are going to start off with our first book of the week in Taskmaster number 4.
Taskmaster number 4 is brought to you by writer Jed MacKay, artist Alessandro Vitti, colors by Guru EFX, and letters by VC's Joe Caramagna. So this is the 4th issue of this story, of this limited series story titled The Rubicon Trigger. And you know, without spoiling too much, obviously we are 4 issues in, so there's a, you know, it's a little less, you know, people should be a little bit aware of what's going on here, but in very broad strokes, Taskmaster has been accused of a murder that he claims to not have committed, and he is not happy about what he has been tasked with in order to try to clear his name. That is a play on his name, Taskmaster, and being tasked, but whatever. Exactly. I was gonna circle back to the drum roll and whatnot, but you know, you got that. But yeah, we have here the 4th issue of the book, and we have Taskmaster's latest attempt at not necessarily a fetch quest, but close. because what he's doing is looking to acquire these kinesic signatures of certain heroes from around the world in order to deal with the deal with the mechanism that's apparently supposed to help clear him. Without, I'm leaving it super vague so that folks can actually read this because it's a lot of fun.
Right.
But this mission leads him to Wakanda and leads him to direct conflict with one General Okoye, who has garnered lots of fame now that she is a featured player in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
This is true. This is true. And yeah, definitely, like Agent 7 said, this book is definitely a lot of fun. So this and while he's at this, Taskmaster kind of, as Agent 7 kind of alluded to, does definitely have some thoughts about what's going on with him and everybody involved in who's actually doing what and why all this is happening. So I assume, which surprisingly enough, we have not gotten any other notation on who might be behind this. Or whether anyone else is behind it outside of people that we know that are involved. Because obviously all of this, well, not obviously, but this one thing started because of a certain, without giving too much away on that part, was done. There was an event that happened with a person, and that's involved. Well, that's Taskmaster is framed with dealing with and putting him into the purview of one Nick Fury,
right?
And Task is like, yeah, we're all kind of getting played, and it doesn't like it, and don't know why. So, but he still hadn't really done any detective work on figuring out how or why, or not how, who most specifically, or why this is going on. Which almost leads me to believe that there's a little bit of I don't know. I don't want to say smoke and mirrors, but that's probably the closest thing I got right now, because it's like, it does seem weird that we haven't really seen anyone kind of come forth. Because normally in a miniseries such as this, we would have kind of seen a person at least get shown.
Right, some form of reveal, because this is the penultimate issue.
Right. And so far, we have only gotten the same group of players in this game, minus one that we've only heard about. That's in this. So I kind of want to lead me to believe it was like, well, wait a minute. I don't know. It's kind of weird, unless they somehow are extending this book, which I don't think we've seen or heard anything about.
Right. I don't believe there's any word out there on that. And the end of this book does say to be concluded.
Right.
Although obviously that doesn't mean that the series might not last beyond the story arc. But I think it's implied that it's going to wrap in the next issue,
right,
as it was advertised to do. So there's a few notes I wanted to make. One, people really should read this. It's a lot of fun. It's interesting to read this. Something that I described just before the show started was a super-powered adventure from a less super heroic point of view. It's definitely a little bit like Deadpool, but without the fourth wall.
Oh God.
Definitely without the fourth wall, because we're definitely seeing the commentary from maybe not the brightest bulb in the pack, but definitely someone who knows what they're doing and is well trained.
Right.
And that is Tony Masters to a T. That is Taskmaster. A few things. It was interesting to hear his inner monologue, not in thought bubbles, but in narration throughout the story. And that was cool to see, and not see those in thought bubbles. It's definitely something that is outmoded and outdated. Having thought bubbles, especially when you're going back into reading old comics like we have been over the last year.
Right.
So I've seen more thought bubbles than I've seen in ages over the past year and change.
Right.
And seeing the narration being played out this way is so much more modern and so much more, it lends itself so much more to the story. But to hear
And the
him,
space given within panels.
what's that?
Because I said, and I would imagine at some point the space given within panels, because that means you can kind of do a little bit more with it, with the with the decrease in thought bubbles.
Right, right. So, uh, you know, in terms of just a couple of notes I wanted to make, because like we've been stressing, we really want people to read this mini series. Um, a few things jumped out at me. One was the Taskmaster's thoughts on taking out the Hatut Zarazi, which
Yeah.
made me laugh because he's got very good points. He makes some very, very good points here because he's not exactly the same. He's not strictly on a human level.
Right.
And what made me laugh, and this is a mild spoiler, but he essentially makes them out to be, and I'm going to quote here, as he's referring to the Hatut Zarazi, they're loyal, well trained, but ultimately they're henchmen, and I know henchmen.
Right.
I laughed at that. I really, really did.
Yeah. I mean, and upon thinking about it, like, yeah, he's kind of right. Like, yeah, like you said, his points were made.
So it was very, very entertaining. I definitely recommend this series. This is depending on how hopefully they do stick the landing in the next issue.
One would hope.
But I think overall this is shaping up to be something that I might actually track down in trade, because I do regret not getting all the books. And the last issue has got only a little bit of an elevated price because it's the first appearance of Taguki, the one of the Korean superheroes. And obviously, and unfortunately, first appearances now are so much harder to get, even for relatively minor stories, minor characters, that is.
Right.
But yeah, I'm probably going to pick up the trade of this because this is something I might want to pass on to someone and say, hey, read this. It's a lot of fun.
And I dare say it shouldn't be that much of a surprise, giving like Agent 70 said, we when he was giving out the creative team of this, we also like Jed McKay's writing because of another not heroic person that he's writing right now in Black Cat. So it's a kind of a similar type of fun. If you've heard us talking about Black Cat, it's a similar but different kind of fun with Taskmaster than Black Cat. Like, you can kind of see a couple of beats here and there that are similar, but not so much that it's like he's just doing from both of these from the same page, from the same from the same script rather. So
obviously Black Cat is much more of a character study because she has much more depth to her as a character. Taskmaster, not so much, but we still have gotten as much of a character study here than we have ever gotten in any other book,
or that we're probably going to get for a while.
Right.
So yeah. That being said, though, unless you got something else coming out of this, we can move on.
No, really, I just want to stress, there's another bit of inner monologuing / narration where Taskmaster says, I hurt people for money, and you know what they say, choose a job you love and you never have to work a day in your life. Oh my gosh.
And again, he's not wrong,
So funny.
As slightly misguiding guided coming from him as that is, it's still a true statement.
Right.
Especially given the context where in which he was saying it. But yeah, it is good stuff. It is good stuff. I should probably find a way to put the books up here. But that's another thing for another time. Anyway, next up, let's see.
What's next?
Do we want to go ahead and do Non-Stop?
Sure.
All right, Non-Stop Spiderman #1. Somebody was waiting for this book. And I'm not saying that as being trying to derisive of it, but you know, it's a new Spidey book, and it's amusing to say the least. But before we get into all that, we got a creative team of.
Oh, you want me to do it? Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
It's written by Joe Kelly. Joe Kelly is back on Spider-Man. Pencils by Chris Bachalo or Bacalo. There is a backup story with art by Dale Eaglesham. Letters are by Tim Townsend. Colors by Marcio Meniz. No, actually, wait, hold on. It's inks by Tim Townsend.
Wait, I thought that was letters. I thought he did letters.
No, I think that's inks. But it's okay. Because, you know, I'm going to just scroll through, and this will help me take care of the recap. So, for anyone who is, you know, especially since the pandemic has locked us into our homes for the better part of a year, anyone who's familiar with the Hamilton musical and or soundtrack probably had The Man Is Non-Stop running through your head while you were reading this and even looking at the title of the book. I'm just looking for the credits page just to confirm.
No, it's you were right. It's Tim Townsend was on inks. I had
right. I'm just familiar. I'm familiar with his name. I'm like, no, he's Bacalo's almost normal inker. So that's why I figured it was a typo where a lowercase L turned into an I, you know, or vice versa, you know, like when it got placed into capitals. But in any event,
it was definitely a typo.
Yes. In any event, this is the first issue of a brand new series for Spider-Man that is kind of in the vein of Spectacular Spider-Man and the Sensational Spider-Man, which is it's maybe not secondary is not the right word for it, but it's definitely a companion book to Amazing Spider-Man, which seems to be where a lot of the main thrust of the Spider-Man story is. But the hope is that these companion books have fun and engaging stories. And I actually enjoyed this story. It's a lot of fun. And if you've heard me make comments on books over the last several years, fun has become very much an important part of my enjoyment with comics because we're still, we're obviously still dealing with tough times. And with some luck, we're slowly moving out of it. But it might be a sign of age, I'll be honest. But having a fun comic book is important to me, especially with a number one, especially with a number one issue, and especially with a character like Spider-Man. So we open with an action sequence that is engaging, definitely lends itself to the art style of Chris Bachalo or Bacalo, or I think it's Bacalo, to be honest. I've heard it said as Bacalo. But I've always said Bachalo. And he shines in this because he gets a chance to just lay out, and his layout here is crisp. It's not dark or murky the way his art can be, but it's super crisp. It does get a little cluttered in certain parts because of the action that's happening, but in general, I can't say absolutely, but in general, it's relatively easy to follow. You can see what's happening, and what's happening in this is Spidey dealing with some erstwhile, apparently drug dealers who have obtained some advanced level of technology and weaponry, and they are putting that to the test and going after Spidey. And we get some flashbacks here into why Spidey finds himself in this predicament in the first place. And we find out that it has something to do with his current TA position over at Empire State University as he's trying to actually re-earn his doctorate that Dr. Octopus earned for him
Hmm.
back in the day during the Superior Spider-Man days. So, that being said, that's where this story gets its background. He's dealing with the lives of students as their teaching assistant, and that gets him into this mess.
Right. So, without belaboring this too much any further, if you know of movies like, I don't know, Crank, maybe a little bit of dash of Speed.
Oh, Speed is cited by the author.
Yes, well, so is
Right.
Crank, but it's kind of more Crank than Speed.
Definitely.
Then you will kind of get the gist of how this issue goes, in a way, which is kind of weird. But it kind of works. I mean, and I guess if you're gonna have a title called Non-Stop Spiderman, I guess that kind of told the tale right off the bat. You didn't think it would be that actual, because it kind of sort of is. But the only other thing I would have to say about this issue is that there is some interesting choices of voice for Spidey and another character from the backup story that I found weirdly jarring.
Okay.
Yes, because there is some modern lingo that is being used by both Spidey and this other character, which we'll get to in a second, that seems kind of unbecoming to either one of them. That's pretty much that, and and there's a couple of references. There's a couple of references to recent things that's also kind of interesting to see, but not to saying that references in themselves in comic books for pop culture touchstones, let's say, are not things that don't happen in comic books. It happens all the time. So that part was amusing, but it was just the language that was used. Let's say drip was being used by a character who wouldn't even know such a word, much less say it.
Well, there is the internet.
Come on, do you really think he would, this character would even care about that?
Listen, we know that the internet has, and different ways that the internet has influenced our culture, to good and bad ends. Shows up in Spidey books, especially in this week's Amazing, which
Right.
we may as well get to next.
Oh, we totally will.
But why on earth would you not think that if this character is indeed the character we think it is?
I have no reason to believe that it wouldn't be.
Right.
Is there a reason to?
Who we think it is, why wouldn't they pick up some of the slang? Obviously, it's misplaced.
Because
Right.
it's the character that we see it is. That's why.
I got a kick out of it. I definitely understood that it felt weird, but I got a kick out of it because I just thought it was silly. But also, I think it's also a way to modernize the character in a weird way, but a way to modernize the character in advance of some other media this character might show up in.
Correct. Yeah, and that part was like, yeah, we know this character's about to show up somewhere in probably less than a week, or probably in another week or two, actually.
Right.
But still, like, no, what are you doing? Also, I will give this one right. Spidey says, and I quote, "Your threads slap." I'm like, really? With no sense of irony in it. Just like, okay, no, what are you doing? But
I was gonna say Marvel definitely has a tradition of trying to slide in hip and current slang to try to stay current.
Especially recently, yeah.
Right. And Casey does
Kelly.
joke that he may be old in the what is the substitute for a letters column in a first issue,
Hmm.
in I guess the note from the writer, because we were joking earlier about referencing both Crank and Speed, and Speed is obviously a fairly old movie for some people because it may predate readers of this book by several years, predate their existence even.
Hmm. Funny you mentioned Casey, as in Joe Casey, which is this book was done by Joe Kelly, but
Oh, Kelly, I'm sorry.
right, but no, that you mentioned Casey, I could actually probably see him writing this book, kind of. So it's kind of interesting that you actually said that.
Right.
Who has written Spider-Man before, if you and other things, who has claimed to have quote unquote cracked the Spider-Man code. I remember him saying that a while back.
You know what? In my mind, I read it as Casey
Hmm.
because I remember Casey as being one of the several groups of writers on Spidey before. Is this Joe Kelly's first Spidey book, or am I
I'm not.
just misremembering?
I'm not sure actually. That's
To the internets, everybody.
I know, right? I want to say it's probably not, but I don't know who's to say at this point.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
I definitely mistook him for Joe Casey in my mind when I read
Honestly,
this.
I saw the name. I still did. So I get it, because even reading the book, it was like, yeah, like I could kind of see Joe Casey writing this.
That's funny.
So
We apologize, Joe Kelly.
yeah, indeed. But that being said, so there is a backup story in here that involves a character who, as we said, is probably going to show up in another media very soon. Who, as the letters page says, is potentially the big bad here, from what it sounds like.
Right.
But also another character shows up, which is that the character from Secret Empire?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Because if I'm not mistaken, that character's still in jail. I was looking at your notes when I was going through when we were setting up the show.
Right, and I also know that this character also shows up in Old Man Logan Future, which, if I'm not mistaken, is technically supposed to be the 616 future at this point. I'm not even sure, but because it is an alternate future, but I believe it might be the one. It's kind of hard to say at this point. So that's why I was like, oh, wait. Him showing up here doesn't mean that could happen if it's an alternate timeline.
Right. I really liked one of the lines here, without spoiling too much. And I'm paraphrasing here. What is the true purpose of Hydra? And the answers that the character gets are pretty funny.
Right. But also, actually, and I enjoyed that actually, because it was like y'all don't even know you he basically says like, you all join this thing and don't even know what it's even about. Like, what are you even doing? Right. So I'm like, you know what? That's actually probably how a lot of folks in this universe have gotten into where they are henchmen wise.
Exactly. All right, Joe Kelly, what have you written?
So it is it's kind of amusing. But regardless, I mean, so while he's looking at the bit of jarring dialogue aside, it is definitely fun, like Agent Center has been saying, and for a kind of breezy Spider-Man book, which that's not to say that his other ones have not been or could not be. I mean, whatever's going on in Amazing right now is taking a turn from what we've seen in recent issues. But or I guess, I don't know, going back to status quo, we're still not really sure what's going on in Nam's Lane. They just turned that corner real quick. But we'll get to that in a second. But Non-Stop Spider-Man is very much, it's kind of a fun read. Like I said, I don't know if this tendency towards the vernacular is going to keep going like this. I don't know. I'm gonna have to deal with it, but it's weird and amusing. And I'm not sure if I like it or not, especially coming from this other character.
Yeah, no, Kelly does have a significant run on Spidey. He was one of the writers who was kind of rotating in and out of Amazing.
Okay.
Because he wrote the Gauntlet. If you remember that, he wrote some of the Grim Hunt stuff.
Okay, that one I kind of remember, but I don't remember the Gauntlet.
Some of it.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it. So,
Okay.
but yeah, no, he's definitely not a stranger to Spidey. So, but yeah, I think I think that there are definitely some instances here where he was trying to put in some current slang, and maybe it fell a little flat. One thing I did want to make note of before we move on is in the art by Bacalo, and I'm fairly certain that this isn't lettering, that this is actually in the art.
Mm-hmm.
The depiction of Spider Sense in this issue.
Oh yes.
I feel like it's novel. I don't want to say we're obviously experts to a certain extent on a lot of comic things, but not, but experts are only know so much. They're always able to learn more. So, for anyone out there listening and or watching, if you read this book and you have other instances where you've seen Spidey's spider sense depicted in this way, in this specific way, let us know in over our social media channels, or in the comments in on the YouTube feed, or even on iTunes. Remember to hit like and subscribe on everything that you get to, uh, involving the Comic Book Chronicles. But getting back to what I was talking about regarding the Spider Sense, this seemed fairly novel to me. So the first time I saw it in the book, it jumped out and gave me a bit of pause.
Right.
But that rapidly went away, and I enjoyed every single instance of it. I enjoyed it because it is much more it actually plays out like narration, which is fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you said, like you just said, and like you said before the show, like, yeah, it was a novel way to do this, and I didn't, like, I did notice it, but I didn't think that much about it, to where it's like, okay, yeah, there's definitely a different way to do that, and it is that's kind of fun, because you would think, like, yeah, when Spidey senses go off like that, like, yeah, that's kind of what it's telling him, in some uncertain way. So it kind of makes sense to where in his mind it's coming off his letters, and it could very well be narration, or his own internal narration in a different form,
right? It just read so fun. It was so fun to me. Yeah. I definitely enjoyed this book.
Yeah, I don't know if I like in this book, definitely it works. Now I don't know if you kind of fold that back into Amazing or any other Spidey books, whether that would
which is a different, yeah, it's definitely a different mood, right, in the regular Spidey book. So
right, whether that would work out the same way, but in this book, given how it's playing out, yeah, it works out pretty good. That being said, let us move on to the other Spidey book of the week.
Sure.
And Amazing Spider-Man number 61.
Right. Amazing Spider-Man number 61 is written by Nick Spencer, with art by Patrick Gleason, colors by Edgar Delgado, and letters by VC's Joe Caramagna. Take it away.
So, previously on Amazing Spider-Man, actually there was no previously, because he pretty much just turned the corner. So the Kendrick stuff only shows up in the first panel. Like, well, Kendrick shows up in like the first page, and at first you're thinking like, wait, are we getting this from his point of view? No, it's just Peter monologuing, or internal monologuing, as he's going along. And I'm just going to go ahead and say this ahead of time. Speaking of weird books of the week, weird Spider-Man books at that. So, we knew this issue was coming, and this is the issue that debuts Spider-Man's new suit. What we did not know is why he's getting this suit, what purpose is it serving, and along those lines. And now we get all of that, and I hate it.
I think hate is a strong word for my feelings on it, but
Okay, it's strong for me too. It's strong for me too.
Dislike it.
Yeah, I was like, it's. I say I hate it as in I hate it here, but actually I genuinely kind of dislike it.
I definitely disliked the entire idea behind the costume. I disliked how he got it.
Mhm.
I dislike why he needs it.
Where he got it from?
Right. We definitely have been accustomed. We're definitely accustomed to Peter having to come up with variations to create action figures. I mean, to create defenses to certain attacks from his villains, his vast rogues gallery.
This is none of that.
Right. That's nothing new. This is nothing. This costume has nothing to do with that.
Right. So, yeah, wow.
Listen, speaking as people who are on the internet,
mm-hmm.
right? Speaking as people who put their views out on the internet via social media, via YouTube, via podcasts, we understand that this is part of culture. This is part of how information is disseminated and processed in the internet age. But
I hate it. I hate it. I hate it.
it's awful when it comes to Spider-Man. And I understand. What's funny is that they actually don't mind the hockey puck I'm holding. I was just looking for something to like kind of mess with. My hands were like fidgeting. The Rangers lost tonight, which sucks.
Oh.
But what I was getting at is, as denizens of the internet, as users of the internet, as content producers, we are content producers, right? So we understand some of the impetus for this change, especially with regards to the news media, and what comes into play here, because we know what the news media's history has been with Spider-Man in his book. Right. And to see how that is developing and changing in this issue, and how this is possibly going to be a development moving forward, is understandable. Somewhat logical, definitely has its place as an allegory, as a real world translate. This is a translation of certain issues that are happening in the real world. That's an allegory, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it doesn't feel right to me, which is why I dislike it.
Right. And I'm gonna tell you a couple of reasons why it don't feel right. One, so spoiler alert. Just because I feel like
you want to ring the bell so you can go full tilt.
I'm not gonna go full tilt, but go for it.
All right, I'm ringing the spoiler bell, folks, because it's probably worth looking into this issue just to see if you are willing to stay on and see if you're willing to go forward with the direction that Spencer's taking. So I'm ringing it in 3, 2, 1.
All right. So one, yes, 870 is correct. We are denizens of the internet, and we are content creators, and we are doing this podcast and all that kind of stuff. But however, this book evokes a side of internet culture that makes me just hurt my soul, and that is the influencer culture.
Correct. It's one of the other sides of the coin,
and
side dice.
Yeah, and so there, and another side of that is like, so that whole part is what it is, but none of it. Well, earned is probably not even right either way, because it's like we basically, just like I said earlier, we pretty much just turned the corner real quick, because the last arc that we just came out of, like it was kind of heavy, it was kind of, I don't know if the Empire Strikes Back of this arc is right or not, but sure. But going from that and then coming out of the last couple of issues where they're kind of like, yeah, this is kind of the prologue to that, and we're getting out of that. None of that sets up coming into this. So it just turns a full corner, and it's like, no, we're just gonna do this. We're just gonna pivot into this, which at some point is Nice. Which at some point is still within the confines of this whole big ass thing that Nick Spencer is doing. Now, to what extent? Sure, it's still early on, and whether this part, like, is this this reads more like a filler arc in. And I know this is the first issue, so it's kind of hard. It's harsh to say that, but this feels like a filler arc in anime, and anime fans out there know exactly what I'm talking about. The good or bad about that part is what it is. But when you just happen to just like stop the main through line, and then it's like, well, we're just gonna come over here and do this thing and try to get things like sort of back to normal, but in a way that just seems like, no, we're just forgetting anything about this. And again, none of that's probably true because of the fact that I'm sure there's some rhyme or reason for doing this. That the experiencer is kind of going to fold back into the overarching story. But just going from that to this is, and just like, hey, here you go, new suit for technically no reason, no real good reason. Especially whereas, as Agent 70 said, there has always been a reason why Spidey has gotten a new suit for one way or another. Even if when he got like Captain Universe powers, and back during whatever that was, even there was some sort of rhyme or reason for it. This one, and I'm not gonna give away why he gets it, but it's ugh, I hate it. I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
Yes.
It's a good looking suit.
It definitely appeals to, we're old heads, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is fun. Where did I read that this week? I saw that in a comic book this week. Old heads. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Right. Oh, you might have read the same book. That's what I'm getting at. I'm trying to remember where I read that.
Where was that? Yeah.
Wherever it is, I read that. It might have been Children of the Atom, another #1 issue this week, because that deals with young characters. But
right.
we might be old heads, but we have seen the internet grow from its nascent form to where it is now, which for good or ill is what it is.
Yes.
But this is one of those sides of the internet, the influencer side that Roddykat mentioned, the comment side, the active creation of content on the fly, that Instagram live, that live feed side,
the smash that like button side,
right? Which we're not above, because we do need subscribers and views, but
we're not like that.
That is one darker side of that of the internet culture. There's also an ad here which I sympathized with, that made me laugh.
Yeah.
Anyone,
yes,
if you're following this on podcast, in podcast form especially, you understand the need for ads.
And speaking of that ad, it is an ad that is pretty much a parody of a real company's things. You may or may not have seen.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Anyone who follows major label podcasts, they're not one of our sponsors,
right.
But it'd be nice. Hey, shout out to you. I'm not gonna name them because we won't get paid, but we could use you as a sponsor.
I mean, sure. I would probably even use your product, I suppose.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll plug it.
Yeah.
I know the folks over at Pod Save America do. So
yeah, I know. This is Magic the Gathering podcast that I watch / listen to. And even that's a reference to it. That has them as a sponsor.
Right. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to mention about this book. Oh, there is just like Roddykat mentioned, there is a bit of a swerve that leads to the main story of this book, or the main premise of this issue. But there is a reveal towards the end that wraps it all the way back around to where Spencer's story was going, for the most part, before Kindred kind of stepped in and took that big arc. that really extended storyline. So we are wrapping back to that at the end of this issue. And I also wanted to mention that. Do you have anything else to say about the book?
The only thing I was mentioning is like, so with that character that you were probably about to mention, I would assume, and what's going on, it was like, okay, with what he and Peter are doing, someone would put two and two together if they haven't already about that, especially with the thing, which I almost forgotten about, that they have in custody of them from that arc, and also I guess real quick, when Spidey actually gets the suit on another toy, and who he gets it from, and the fact that a person does a thing with that suit, or with part of that suit with Peter, kind of makes me wonder if she actually knows who he is.
Right.
And that's because that seems a little too like, and she's pretty much a relatively sharp tech, so I'm kind of wondering if that is. So we know one other person that has to do with without giving too much of it away, knows Spidey's identity, but I'm kind of curious as to whether this person does now because of what they end up doing in that moment. But that being said, yeah, you take that away. But I will say, oh, by the way, shout out to my friend Cammy, who's in the chat, and we do have chat on Twitch and YouTube, which I should be checking the YouTube chat into a little bit more. So if you've got questions or anything, let us know.
I just wanted to mention, honestly, the only thing that I was going to add is, Roddykat mentioned the whole side. What was that?
No, that wasn't for you. Don't worry about it.
Oh, okay. I was laughing. I was like, "Whoa, what happened?" What was that? The side arc you said, or the anime convention that you were talking about? That swerve, the filler. Oh no, you called it a
filler
arc.
arc. Yes.
Right. So you called it a filler arc. I just wanted to mention that I have endeavored over the last week and change to get fully up to date on Attack on Titan, and I accomplished that the other day. So I am up to date. And I forced myself to read the subtitles for the most recent stuff because the English dubs have not come out yet.
You did a thing that I still have not done because I can't do it. Attack on Titan had so much problems for me, and I know it gets, some people say it gets good or bad, and it's something that gets good before it dips into whatever. But yeah, no, I can't do it.
Why? Do the Titans give you nightmares? I was afraid of that.
No, I mean, they are nightmare inducing.
I admit that.
Yeah, they are nightmare inducing, but no, I dealt with that. It's just like, all right, once I think I got to a certain part in the first part of the season, not to divulge too far, but got to a first part of the season, and I'm like, oh, well, that happened. Like that's all I pretty much need to see. Something
we can talk.
So
we'll
yeah,
talk
something
about this more as I guess the anime series is about to come to a conclusion. So we'll see how that goes over the next month or so. So, but yeah, there's only I think like a few episodes left.
Correct.
So. But yeah, no, shout out to @Boss Jones on Twitter and Instagram, who has been imploring me to, and several of his friends and colleagues to get up to date on Attack on Titan. So I jumped in a little bit more than a week ago and binged all those. Shout out to binge mode.
Indeed, I'm surprised you started with that one, but that would be a popular one to do if you're going to do it. So
because it's current, right? Because it was one of those things where it's a lot like Game of Thrones, where if you want to stay in the zeitgeist, if you want to stay current, that's what you decide to binge.
Fair. And you know me, I got a couple for you. The along with what I've already given you in the past. So whatever you're going to next, but interesting choice.
So now that my binge is done, and I'm just going to be staying afloat. Staying abreast of what comes up new. I guess it's the last like 2 or 3 episodes.
Right.
Then then I'll be ready to. Well, actually, I'm ready. I'm kind of ready to pick up something else in the interim. But yeah, now that my binge is done, I can. But yeah, I just thought it was fun. It's like, yeah, I sort of understand. I'm not as big an anime person, so as a comic book reader, I definitely understand filler arcs.
Yeah.
That don't necessarily serve the grand story, but so few comics have extended runs by writers nowadays.
Right.
It's rarer and rarer that it's less frequent.
Right.
That's really what I was getting at. Like
Right. Because
we don't see nearly as much now as we did as we were coming up.
Exactly. I was about to say exactly that because, and matter of fact, I was talking to somebody a few days ago, and I told them they were telling they found out about this podcast, and I was like, they tend to go into like a back in the day situation. I'm like, don't worry about it. We kind of do that sometimes too. And there you go. We just hit one right there. Kind of sort of
it's one of those things, right? Where because we stay current with the comics, we're forced to adapt.
Right.
But we can't help but think, oh, this isn't always the way it was.
Right. Like, yes, comics were largely but similarly not so different, but very much so different than what they are now, or how they are now, I should say.
I agree.
But that being said, Amazing Spider-Man 61. Yeah, again, like I said, it's man. That whole suit reveal and why, and coming out of that last thing was like, what are we even doing here? And going back to stuff that, like Agent 7 said, going back to stuff that was even before the Kindred stuff. It's like, what, how, why? And again, we know, I feel like there's going to be, like I said earlier, there's going to be a nice, neat bow that's going to wrap this all together. And even some of it kind of showed up in this book, but still, like, what are we doing here?
Right.
So that being the case, I think we can move on.
Yes. I was about to say we could probably get to rapid fire soon. Maybe we just need to cover a couple more books, or maybe one more book.
Well, you know what book that's going to be for me? Strange Academy number 9.
Sounds good. It's written by Scotty Young with art by Humberto Ramos, colors by Edgar Delgado, letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. Take it away.
So, it is Family Day at Strange Academy. So there's that going for it. And we got a couple of folks whose family members, for one reason or another, are not going to be present. These two characters, that being Calvin and Doyle, have reasons both because we start off with a little bit of backstory, which we haven't gotten too much of a point, because this book is basically about a bunch of kids at a magic school, not unlike another similar popular culture thing that we know of, but also different. So we get a little bit of backstory on this particular student, Calvin, as we tend to get with some of the students during the course of these issues at times. So this sounds like this seems to be the arc that we're going to probably dive into a little bit more with him. And this other character, Doyle, who is the son of the Dread Dormammu, who, even if you don't know Marvel Universe history and you've seen Doctor Strange, you've seen this character. Who did not previously have any offspring, which you could say that
right, that we knew of.
Which you could say that about a lot of characters in this book, because there
are some revelations. You'll get to it, but there are some revelations.
Yes, and I think you're referring to the one in my notes.
Oh, I didn't cheat. I didn't take a look at notes. I will scroll down and look while you go on.
Right. So Family Day is happening, and bearing that in mind, so while the other folks with their various family members are partaking of the fun and games, these two folks get into a little bit of trouble on the grounds. But on the other side of that, we do get some Family Day shenanigans with the one at this point I'm still willing to call her the main protagonist, but she is among the group of this of these students, but she's kind of had been the main focus of this group in the beginning arc, because she's kind of the newest character. Well,
right. She's definitely a mix of Harry and Hermione.
Yes.
Definitely a mix of Harry and Hermione.
Accurate. So we get to meet her. Well, actually, we don't get to meet because we've seen them before. We get to see her parents and her very scary mom, who is very competitive, which I got a kick out of. It was kind of funny. But we also meet other kids' family members, guardians, whatever the case may be, in that, including two particularly. Like, so we have a group, a couple of kids from Asgard, which, we didn't get to see Gus's people. I just realized that. The big frost giant. And we know Loki, who shows up in the book, is the king of frost giants, but I don't think that's another relation. But regardless, the two kids from Asgard, who, as far as I know, did not have any actual relation to Loki, outside of, I guess, being, Asgardian. So that was weird to see him pop up in this book. But another revelation in this book is that one of the characters, named of Desi, is the child of one demon, Sim. So if you are comic read of a certain vintage, Sim from back in the X books, which, by the way, one of the members, Magic of the X-Men / New Mutants / Krakoans, is a part of the staff, but doesn't show up in this book. So that would have been a very, very, very interesting conversation had she shown up, I am sure. But Sim shows up, and apparently that, like, he has a daughter and Desi's her daughter. Desi's his daughter. I'm saying, like, what? When did that happen? Where did that happen? And obviously, a lot of these characters are pretty much newly formed, and therefore their relations to other characters in the Marvel universe are pretty much coming out here.
Right.
Just like in the way that like was mentioned with Dormammu and whatnot. So it's ginned up, but it's still a thing. I think there was another revelation in here that I can't remember now, but that was the one that kind of struck me, because, like, well, Sim's got children. Again, Sim was a big bad back in the day in the X books. So him having any kind of offspring. So I'm actually kind of also surprised that Desi was not in this group with Doyle and, well, Doyle specifically, but Doyle and Calvin, who didn't have any big bads as his parentage, but his foster parents were not great, put it that way.
Right. And there's a tease, I think, for what his actual parentage might be.
Right. So
given this little flashback story.
Right.
Or sequence, actually.
Yeah, I kind of wondered about that. So that is who I assume we're both thinking of?
It might be. It might be, like, definitely coat related.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. I was thinking more of a well, that would be saying the name because it's a little too long to know. But regardless, so yeah, I was kind of curious about that. So, and then, yeah, we will probably see a little bit more of that. I'm going to assume in the next issue, given what it was. But regardless, this issue is kind of fun because of the whole Family Day shenanigans and the little bonding moments with with Calvin and Doyle, who were already, decent friends. They kind of talk out some stuff because of some recent events with Doyle while they get into trouble. And apparently may or may not have opened up a literal bottle that will probably come into play at some point. Maybe not, because I know there's been some things that they've opened up and haven't really done much to, but you still kind of see them around, like that cat beast thing that's paddling around with Emily.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely probably going to come up in something that's fun. So they've been definitely pacing this book pretty interestingly. Like, I've been enjoying it from the jump, and I'm not saying that this is that has stopped, but it is interestingly paced book for the amount of people that they are focusing on.
Yeah, they're definitely giving Scotty Young room to let the characters breathe.
Mm-hmm. It
definitely feels like he's got, to put it bluntly, a long leash.
I hope
on this.
Yeah, like, one would hope, because, like I said, I don't want to see this book end without doing what it was trying to do, and honestly, what it's trying to do, it is doing that. But I feel like as a potential all age, well, I guess it is an all ages book. It's different from a lot of stuff that's out there, but it's also one that, you know, regardless of whether it is an all ages book, it is still a cool book to read if you are of a certain vintage like us. If you are interested in certain realms of the Marvel universe, such as the magic stuff, you know, and this book could very well have some legs if allowed and sells, you know, and I would hope that it does definitely get a good run out of it, because I know this could potentially be one of those books that's like gets on the block fairly quickly. But that being said, I think I'm trying to remember if there was anything else to mention about this. You know, like I said, the Family Day stuff is what it is. Emily's mom is scary. That whole thing with her and Loki was pretty fun. This is a potential click of the week for me, which probably shouldn't be a surprise, but it's definitely genuine in this. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it until we see, you know, what else is going on with what they tease in this issue with that one with Calvin.
Right. That little interlude regarding Calvin's past aside, I think this was like a little bit of a palate cleanser
Kind of.
of a story after dealing with some pretty dark things with the what were they called? The tree people, the tree wizards or whatever.
I want to say it's not the Forgotten.
In the swamps.
Yeah, I forgot the name. It's like something like the Forgotten or something like that, or I don't remember though.
Yeah, I mean, but at the end of the day, you know, something bad happens to Doyle, and they reference that specifically here in this issue, and this issue definitely comes off as a bit of a palate cleanser before we head off into their next round of hijinks. So that's, you know, that this issue was definitely a pleasant read, a fun read. I'm looking in the book. I guess we didn't see any other frost giants.
No, yeah, just Gus showed up for a brief second, but yeah, but no parentage. Which I guess maybe it makes some sense. I don't know. You know, and Loki being both a representative of which they don't even say anything about that either. Now that I look about it, because like he seems like he's there representing Asgard more than the Frost Giants, of which he's king of, like I said earlier.
Right.
So that was interesting. And the fact that he was in there in the first place was kind of funny, but you know what? It worked. Not to say, you know, obviously, you know, Loki is, you know, I dare say not inherently evil, but definitely has been more evil than not. And we also know he also has a show coming up too. So, you know, any chance they're going to get to put him someplace, they're probably going to do that, which is kind of cynical, but it is the truth. But at least it's organic here than, you know, anywhere else they would probably throw him in at this point.
I agree.
So, that's it though for Strange Academy, unless you got something else.
No, I think it's time to get to rapid fire reviews.
Oh, actually, one of my notes that does say something that the first couple of pages after a little bit with the Calvin, we see Wanda. I'm sitting here like thinking like, yeah, she still stays on brand, even as a teacher, you know, with what she wears, and kind of going back to
awkward. Yeah, I thought that the clothing choice that Ramos put up there was a little awkward. I was like, oh, why is she wearing that? Okay.
Yeah, like that seems kind of hot, and not even the hey, this attractive way. Like why, you know, like that seems a little too warm for where they are.
Well, I'm not even worried about that. I just thought stylistically, I was like, oh, that's a little off.
I mean, hey, the pantsuit thing was all right, but it's like I'm like, okay, you can drop some of that. Like you don't have to go full Scarlet Witch on part of the, you know, on the rest of it.
Right.
So it was, but
yeah, I thought it was more of a style.
It was
style choice that I disagreed with. So
yeah, but yeah, like I said, it was a choice.
All right.
So anyway, yeah. So rapid fire, folks.
We are in rapid fire review time.
Given that we have pretty much the same books, you want to go ahead and hit it and I'll just
Sure.
chime in?
Absolutely, absolutely. So follow along with me as I go. First up is Children of the Atom #1. This was written by Vita Ayala with art by Bernard Chang and letters by VC's Travis Lanham. I actually enjoyed this book. I'll be honest. I actually enjoyed this book because it definitely had a good first issue hook at the end, because an entire book goes through the introduction of a group of superpowered individuals under the X banner.
I'm
This is
I'm glad you worded it that way.
right. This is definitely under the X banner, right? We have in this issue the stylistic Krakoan lettering on the data pages. We have, which introduces us to the names and code names that these characters have adopted. So it is clearly under the X banner, but this issue goes through several stages. The first is the introduction of these young individuals, and I stress young individuals, going on their first mission and taking on, was it Hell's Bells?
Yes.
Shout out to ACDC. Well, Hell's Bells. I appreciated the data page that gave us some stuff on Hell's Bells. Like their last appearance.
Yes.
kind of remind us who they are.
Because I damn sure forgot.
I absolutely did too. So I appreciated that. And we also get some debate happening on Krakoa about reaching out to these children as the first, I guess, advanced team or scout team or diplomatic team from Krakoa to this young team, don't exactly convince them to come back to Krakoa with them. So we have some debate happening amongst the they're not the council members, but definitely the core members of the X-Men that we are familiar with.
Some of them
over
are.
a pool table, which is cool.
Right.
What'd you say?
I said a couple of them are or were, but yes.
Oh, you mean in the discussion?
No, I'm talking. You said there were it was not a meeting of the council, but there were a couple of them that were or
right,
are.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. It's not a complete meeting of the council, but these are the X-Men that we are familiar with.
Right.
Right. And they are debating how to deal with these, to deal with this young team. And, a lot of the issue deals with that. And a lot of it deals with age-related issues and Krakoan-related issues. And that's cool. But, and we get some background on who these young superpowered individuals are. And like I said, I really like the hook at the end. It was, listen, in terms of a first issue, I thought it was strong. I'm not sure what I expected out of this,
right?
To be honest, I think there's a tease involved with this book because of the characters and their powers and what's been displayed so far. And I think that's the biggest tease that is not paid off in this issue. So I understand why some people, namely other members of our
yes.
Of our panel, absent or present, may not have been so happy with this book.
Right. And on that, yeah, like you said, there was a so going into this, I was thinking like you were kind of just saying, like, yeah, given what we knew of their power set or whatever there was, I was personally thinking like, okay, so this has something to do with the future stuff that we still haven't really gotten a whole lot of from Hoxpox. And you can kind of tell early on that no, that is not the case. And I don't know how long whether it took you until the last page or even that that meeting that we just spoke of to get the sense that things are not what they seem. because it definitely seemed early on to me before I was just going to say Nightcrawler, who was in that meeting, kind of says a thing. But before that, I was kind of like, wait, something's not right here, because if X, if X is a thing and Y is not happening, there's a reason for it. To which you get shades of that from what from may or may not get that shades of that from what Nightcrawler is saying, and it quickly kind of divulged into like, well, wait, so are these folks, like, what is going on with these folks?
Right.
That we're not actually being told at this point, which I know they're gonna tease out for probably another issue or two, or maybe they might say it next issue. We don't know, because I'm not sure. Wait, so is this? I think it's supposed to be an ongoing, correct? I don't remember.
That's my understanding.
Right. And there's been changes because this book has been pushed and pushed and pushed back for a while, partially due to through the COVID and probably other things, scheduling, whatever. But now that we finally get this book and it's here, that it slightly answers the question, but opens up a couple of more that we were not privy to prior to this.
Right.
And I am still slightly curious about that, but I'm slightly also bummed that it's not the future tinging thing that we thought it might be. Or maybe it could still be. We don't know, in some roundabout way.
Right. And we're still not completely sure how to read that last sequence. We don't know if...
That's true. Right.
We're not completely sure. So, but like I said, I thought it was a decent hook.
It feels pretty clear on first blush. But yeah, you're right. We don't necessarily know. Because it looked like it's going one way and still could very well be that, but then it's like, nope.
Right. So we'll see in the next issue.
But also kind of right, and also kind of felt like, well, okay, that felt like that was something that was going to happen.
Yeah, it's definitely a pretty, it's definitely, like I said, it's a good hook.
Mm-hmm.
Surprised or no, whether or not you were surprised, it's, I think, a good hook to get you to come back for the next issue.
Right. As I said in my back channel, and if you're of a certain vintage, you will kind of sort of get this. And now that I'm thinking about it a little bit more, you kind of sort of can see it in here, I guess. But there's a little bit of fallen angels in the periphery of this, but there's also some runaways.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely that feel as well.
Right. And not just because they're like a group of young kids. I feel like there's a little bit more in there than just that.
Right, how they're related to each other, or
Right.
the relationships they have developed and how they've come together.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely get that vibe as well.
So if that is something that is appealing to you, this might be something to pick up for you in that vein. Again, we don't know if it's going to keep that way, or where that's going to turn, or whatever the revelation is going to be, what we think it is or not.
Right.
Anyway.
Okay, next up.
Yeah.
Next up is Daredevil number 28. It's written by Chip Zdarsky with art by Marco Cacchetto and colors by Marcio Meniz. I will get you the letterer in a second. It's lettered by VC's Clayton Cowles. This issue is the first issue back from the King in Black crossover. Tie-in 2 issues. So Daredevil actually had a 2-issue crossover with King in Black, dealing with several effects that the King in Black story had to do on Daredevil, New York City, and Hell's Kitchen in particular. This follows the effects of King in Black on Elektra, who has taken up the Daredevil mantle. That's not a big spoiler. It follows the effects of it on Daredevil Prime, Matt Murdock, while he is in jail, and also deals with its effects on Wilson Fisk and Typhoid Mary, which was a part of the story as well. I will say that there is one revelation in this book that is pretty cool, that hopefully leads Daredevil down a positive down a path in a positive direction. I will leave it at that. So, but Zdarsky's story seems to be going at a good pace. Not a great pace because of the King in Black stuff, but a good pace. And there is a cliffhanger ending to this issue, which is a mild swerve. I mean, but yeah, very mild. But it's a
Nice.
nice little cliffhanger. I've always had that car screech, sound effect. By the way, I just don't use it that often.
Nice.
Next up is Eternals number 3. It is written by Kieron Gillen with art by Isad Rabich, colors by Matthew Wilson, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. So, in the march up to the MCU introduction of the Eternals, we get another issue of the Eternals that's sort of focused upon uh, getting us up to speed on the main characters of the I guess the Eternal Central Family, or royal. No, they're not a royal family, but the central characters in the Eternals, where they are, what their dynamic is as a group of, I guess, related individuals, and also expanding in this case to the world of Lemuria and the Deviants, and introducing them as I guess the counterpoint to the
Or
Eternals.
more like reintroducing them, but yeah. I mean, well, reintroducing to those who know, but yeah, introducing the
Right,
folks who are
introducing
not.
them in this
Right.
introducing them in this relaunch of the Eternals.
Right.
So getting to the last part I was going to mention is the investigation into the alleged death of Zuros continues.
Who has relation to a person that pops up in this, which I didn't know, but who pops up in this, or I guess who is the focal point of this particular issue, whom you said something about before the show. I don't know if you wanted to reiterate that about who she looks like, or who the pattern
Or
are.
whether or not,
Right.
well, right. So Marvel is not above asking their artists to create likenesses. They're not dead on sometimes. Sometimes they are, of characters who have been cast, who have been where actors or actresses have been cast in future Marvel Cinematic Universe roles. And it's my understanding that Angelina Jolie has been cast as Thena. So I was looking carefully at this to see if Isadora Beach drew Thena a little bit like Angelina, where I think Cersei is drawn a little bit more Asian because she has been cast as Gemma Chan
Mhm.
in Eternals as well. You know, more so Asian now than she ever was drawn by Steve Epting back in the Avengers days.
It's true.
So it's interesting to see if that's maybe something that evolves over the course of this book, or if I'm just missing it. So I don't know, but I'll move on to the
Well,
next book,
well,
which
before you do that, I
is
was gonna say
sure.
real quick about the Eternals thing. So yeah, you mentioned the Angelina Jolie thing, and I was thinking more because, especially because of because of what the cover looks like, Angela from Thor, and about back. But there's also, just to real quick without getting into it, about that. Like there was a allegory in this, a seemingly tale told that seemed like an allegory for something that I'm not entirely comfortable with, especially with the character we were just talking about, of Thena. So that was like that. That's You could kind of take that somewhere if you really really wanted to, but that's interesting. This is still a weird book though. But anyway, go ahead.
Definitely. I mean, the Eternals are a weird set of characters, and that's, obviously that is why a lot of people are concerned, worry. It's a mix of all those. Maybe not the extreme sense of those words, but a lot of people are wondering about how Eternals is going to be received.
Right, especially when you have had another group in the MCU that has had a poorer showing on a smaller screen that almost
Right,
was a bigger screen.
right. But for certain reasons that I don't think was given the best tools.
Yes.
And that's a really kind way of putting it.
Yeah, some would say some things was rushed because of some other things happening that ended up not now are not the case anymore.
Right.
But anyway.
Right. It would be funny if that was done under the auspices of Disney Plus, right? It would have been so different.
Yeah, probably.
It's a shame. It's a shame.
Yeah. Whether it would have fared any better, who's to say? But yeah, I would imagine they would have gotten a little bit better treatment.
I think they would have gotten it right, which is a shame, Oh,
yeah, one would hope.
All right, last up in rapid fire for me is Immortal Hulk number 44.
Also read this.
Written. What was that?
I said I also read this.
Oh, yeah, I was about to say without a question. Mm-hmm. Written as always by Al Ewing, pencils by Joe Bennett, inks by Rui Jose and Belardino Bravo, colors by Paul Mounts, and letters by VC's Corey Pettit. So this is the direct continuation of what happened in the last issue. We open with a little bit of a monologue from one Henry Peter Gyrick, the new head of the Alpha Flight program. He's the acting commander, at least. My favorite line from this little monologue is that he says, and it's his third line, and I'm just going to quote here. He says, "Who am I? My name is Henry Peter Gyrick. I'm the government, mister." And that's essentially how Gyrick has been portrayed throughout his entire existence in the Marvel Universe.
Pretty much.
What he has done is put into play a plan of taking down the Hulk using none other than the UFOs. If you're not familiar with the UFOs, they are a set of ne'er-do-wells who decided to take a space trip to try to replicate the accident with cosmic rays that gave the Fantastic Four their powers. Much like the super soldier serum is described in Captain America, the First Avenger by Dr. Erskine, it enhances not only the good but the bad. And in the sense, it definitely seemed to enhance the bad for the UFOs, because they are not very nice people, and they do their level best taking turns. That's the nicest thing that they do, is take turns, let everyone have a shot in dismantling a very weakened Hulk.
Right. Worth noting, going back to the Gyrick thing. So for those not knowing, for those of us for a certain vintage, definitely know Gyrick from the Avengers of the past. He was their liaison. He was definitely the government. But he's, in some ways, he's kind of, folks might know this a little bit better, he's pretty much the Marvel Universe's version of Amanda Waller, in a sense. So if you are up on, like, especially if you I'm sure if you watch Suicide Squad, or Justice League, you kind of get a sense of what I'm talking about. So he's kind of that, old school wise. And the only other thing I'll say about this before we move on is that, like, I kind of wonder if he and Coulson are going to butt heads at some point, because I feel like they're kind of jockeying for the same position, even though I think Coulson's in a little bit better standing with where he is.
Right. This reimagined Coulson, because they have taken Agent Phil Coulson down a specific path. Mm-hmm. So, also they do develop more of what Jackie McGee can do now that she has been exposed to Gamma, and that she has developed a special ability. Mm-hmm. May not be a power, but definitely a special ability. Right.
She's the eye boy of she's the camera powered eye boy. That's
right.
That's not nice, but
it just could be Gamma Vision as opposed to, and that's actually a brand name. That's actually the brand name of my blue light glasses.
Oh, nice.
But as opposed to X-ray vision, right?
Right.
She definitely may just have Gamma Vision.
Yeah, totally.
My blue light glasses that we are not sponsored by, so I'm not going to show them and not mention them again. But it made me laugh just now. I was like, oh yeah, that's what she has.
Mm-hmm. So,
and there's also almost like a Good Place reference at the end of this.
Yeah,
I don't know if you watch that.
I've watched enough of it to get that reference.
Right.
So yeah, I could definitely see that. um, yeah. I guess there's really not much else to say about that outside of the other team's doing a thing while the Hulk's fighting, the weakened Hulk is fighting. So, that's if you're done with that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, you're up.
Then I will go ahead and pop off mine real quick. Starting with Star Wars number 12. Yay! Wait, you were planning on reading this?
Yes.
Picture click of the week for me. Written by Charles Soule, art by Ramon Rosanas, colors by Rochelle Rosenberg, letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. I would say don't read my notes, but it's not. It's I guess it's a spoiler, but not really so much. So I will say that I will say this much, that Leia and Kes, who is Poe Dameron's dad, have a kind of a bonding moment while there's some downtime, which leads to a couple of interesting stories that we have not, at least interesting to me, stories that we have not seen in this universe. One of which kind of takes place, I guess, before or after a movie. I'm not entirely sure the time frame there, but being that this, well, let's say before. And now that I think about it, but regardless, it's a pretty, I thought, interesting read for something that's not really fully action. Sometimes the stories don't necessarily have to have fully packed back action to be interesting to me. And I know we've had the discussion in the past on the show, but for me, this is kind of one of them in this universe for what they kind of bear out here. Next up, though, is X Factor number 8, written by Leah Williams, art by David Baldion, color artist is Israel Silva, letters by VC's Joe Caramagna, who
Manya. I think he's a paisan.
Yeah. Where did I just drop that A from? But so Prodigy is still looking into his death for whatever reason. I feel like we gotten at some point, but I'm not entirely sure why he's doing that at this point. But clearly, I guess it's going to be a point that they're going to bring up. But also, this is also following the events of last issue, where the Boneyard gets taken over by an entity. And which I guess a thing happens with that in this issue. Yeah, and apparently there's also a little wrinkle that comes up. Not a wrinkle, but something comes up about a person's power set, which now that I think about it, just mentioned previously outside of this book. that there's kind of a revelation on, or somewhat of a revelation on. I don't know. This character has never really meant that much to me, so it is what it is. But also we know after Resurrection protocols that people get a slight percent upgrade in their power set, and apparently this might be playing off of that. For what reason, I don't know, because this character's still whatever. But last but not least, we have The Next Batman, Second Son, number 3, written by John Ridley. Yes, that John Ridley. Pencils by Travel Foreman. Inks by Mark Morales. Colors by Rex Locus. And letters by Darren Bennett. So in this issue, this is still kind of right before this is kind of at the beginning of Future State. This book is taking place. So we see things like the mayor, the relatively newly elected mayor. Actually, I think he's newly elected. I'm not even sure. Has that mayor been in this universe prior to this? Like, I'm assuming he was there for the Joker War stuff. Do you know?
I'm sorry?
The mayor of Gotham at this point.
I totally I was looking at something else because I was making a list of things I wanted to mention, like books. I missed the last part of what you said.
I was asking if the mayor of Gotham at this point was there in the previous volumes of Batman, because I don't know this character.
Well, not previous. I mean, this is just a continuation. Yeah. This particular character who's been elected mayor
Right.
has been in place was
Okay.
running for mayor and was elected to mayor prior to whatchamacallit,
Future
Future
State.
State for
Okay.
several months.
Okay, so what I
So
said still stands.
over the
Good.
course, right. So over the course of several months, that character has become, I guess, has become more prominent.
Gotcha. So we see shades of the mayor talking to what I felt like when we in Future State proper, we had already seen the fact that he instills a person to a position that we already saw, that I believe we already saw in Future State. Because like I said, this takes place before at the beginning of Future State. Weirdly enough, but we see the shades of that happening, but we also still don't see Tim, aka Jace, or Jace actually, aka Tim Fox, in Batman's suit. So, but we do see him talking to his father Lucius, and there's some family shenanigans, some family dealings that happened during the course of. If we get a sense that something happened. We know something happened, and they keep dancing around. Hey, this thing that happened that Jace did when he was young, but never actually say what he did. Like they go so far as to even because Jace even says like, "What did I do, Dad? Tell me what to do," and then they just don't. They go away from it. So we still don't know that. We still don't know. Or at least I don't know. Now some of this might have come out in the Joker War stuff, because. So that's because I'm not very much read the Batman at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But I know this, like we know Lucius has been here forever and a day, and we know he's had family, and we know he had taken over Wayne Enterprises at some point during the course of that. So something happened that apparently came out, that has something to do with Jace and why he's the black sheep of the family.
Right. I think that's been a slow reveal.
Right.
Over time. So yeah, if you want, you could just go take a look at. I think some of that was also unfortunately revealed in the Future State stuff. So
right.
You may have to do a little bit of research and back reading into some of the Future State stuff to really get a handle on how J/Tim factors in, because as we've mentioned several times previously, it was a big swerve to me that this was another character that wasn't the second Batwing.
Right. Yeah,
So.
and as we said, they definitely went ahead and spoiled that already. And yeah, I remember reading that next Batman book, and I don't remember them. They definitely kind of teased around it then, but I don't remember them actually saying what happened then either. So that's maybe that's I assume that's going to be the thing that they're teasing out to mention here.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So for what reason and what that has to do with them ended up being what we know is going to be the Batman on Future State, and that is still yet to be seen. So, but regardless, like I said, there's some family issues that go on here, and the book ends kind of somber because of a fight that happens within a couple of family members ends in a certain way that you don't want to see. And it's not as bad as what I'm making it out to be, but it is a thing that, Right. So that is it, folks, for me. We are now at the Clicks of the Week section.
Right. Just before we jump to Clicks of the Week, I just wanted to mention that there are several books that came out this week that I wanted to get to. We've already mentioned Star Wars, but Roddykat did talk about it. I wanted to specifically mention two books that I had read the first issue of and did not get to them this weekend. It's a shame. One of them is Deep Beyond number 2, and the other one was Radiant Black number 2. So
yeah.
I will endeavor to read those hopefully soon.
There, actually, I will mention also, and I'm kind of surprised you hadn't read this, but the Captain America Anniversary Tribute also came out this week.
Oh, you mean it's like the reprint of his first appearance, but like drawn modern.
I believe so. Yeah, I didn't take a look at it myself, but yeah, I believe that's the case. But yeah, that Radiant book was also I've been wanting to check out. That being said, anyway, so clicks of the week. Oh, there was also a Thor and Loki.
What's that?
There was also that Thor and Loki book that came out, but that seems more of an all ages book that than
right. Clicks of the week time.
We at least got a couple of clicks. Well, wait, did we get one from Dirt? Hold on.
I think we did.
Oh no, I just put it in your section. I'm sorry. That was my error there. So we did get a couple of clicks of the week from our absent folks here. Maybe they heard me talking smack about them last week. I don't know.
Ah!
So from Dirt, we have Non-Stop Spiderman #1. And he references a movie that I have no idea about, but it's still in the same vein of the stuff that that we were talking about.
Right, I was about to say that predates even Joe Kelly's references.
Yeah, indeed. Let's see. And he said he liked it, so I'll go with that. Yeah, he's over in saying nothing else about it. And for Tim, he said Batman Urban Legends #1, which I'm not sure what that book entails, but it's Batman. So, and he didn't necessarily say anything outstanding about that either. So.
Oh, interesting. I was just flipping through the Captain America Anniversary book. Yeah, it's a reimagining with art and layout of Cap's first appearance, Cap's thawing out, that is.
Gotcha.
And several and a few issues there. So that looks interesting.
Right.
But cool. It's nothing that we, it's a reinterpretation. It's nothing terribly new, but it'll be interesting to flip through that.
Right. I thought this had, and maybe it does, because I don't know if this is that. Somebody had teased a story with Cap, Bucky, Sam, and maybe John Walker that they were doing, and I think we may even have it in our.
Oh, that's upcoming.
Yeah, in the news section about that, but I wasn't sure if that was in this or not.
Right. That's supposed to be upcoming. I remember seeing that as well.
Right. So for our clicks of the week, and by the way, while I'm still here thinking of my click of the week, there was something I was going to mention earlier that in relation to what you were saying about casting choices for the MCU. Some of those casting choices happened because of this particular person was drawn into a comic book that ended up actually being cast as the person they were drawn into, the book they were drawn into. That actually is
right.
Yeah, that kind of started this whole ball rolling, let's say.
Exactly. No, absolutely.
So that's amusing when that happened, but it's rare.
I'll tell you what I'm considering.
Okay.
Because it sounds like you are still considering several, or at least one or two.
A couple, definitely.
Options.
Yes.
So I really did have a good time reading Non-Stop Spidey #1. I had a good time reading Strange Academy #9. I had a good time reading Taskmaster #4, despite that. Despite the fact that it didn't really go that deep as some of the other previous issues have gone.
Right.
Into Taskmaster's nuttiness.
Yeah.
It was still nutty. Immortal Hulk was good just because we got to see the UFOs really go to town.
Which is kind of sad because it would have been great if it was like a fully powered Hulk and they had a chance to go out. But as they said, even in that book, like, yeah, we've done that before. So.
Right. I'll tell you what I'm not going to pick is Amazing Spidey #61.
Yeah.
I'm. You know what? I think I am going to go with. I wonder what I'm going to go with.
Yeah, and actually, TikTok is actually more appropriate here also.
Oh, yeah, I was about to say it feels like we're in the middle of Final Jeopardy, but I will definitely find the ticking clock. So, I'm trying to think of what I enjoyed most. How about you?
Yeah, like the two books that I'm really kind of strong about, they weren't some would say the most action packed, but they were still kind of poignant to me on a couple of accounts. That being Strange Academy and Star Wars. Definitely Taskmaster too, but like you, yeah, I'm kind of like, yeah, it was good, but it didn't have it was kind of lacking some of the not lacking, I shouldn't say that, that's not good, but it
wasn't as strong as some of the previous issues.
Yes, although I did like the Taski's and Okoye's banter there.
Oh, of course,
that part was kind of interesting.
It's really where the Taskmaster, and what's great about this series is that it's given the Taskmaster character a lot of time to really, for lack of a better word, kind of ingrain itself on us. Like, oh, okay, so this is the Taskmaster that we just sort of see in little snippets here and there when he's running with his tail between his legs, with his cape between his legs,
Right.
away from some heroes, because he's much more the withdraw to fight another day type of villain,
Right. Or that one video that I keep referring to from Marvel Heroes where he's his commercial for his institute.
Exactly. He's all about getting paid.
Yeah.
That's really what he's trying to do. He's not trying to take over the world.
Yeah.
I think what I'm gonna go with is it's tough because they were good, but nothing, like some stuff is just not jumping out and being like, hey, pick me this week.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna go ahead with Strange Academy number 9. Like I said, definitely shout out to Star Wars number 12. If you are if you are interested in a little bit of some lesser known information in that universe about a couple of characters and their relations to other characters, whether they are new or not, you may be interested in this particular issue. I'll say that. And it's not really saying much, but yeah.
All right. Yeah, Strange Academy was good. There's definitely some even stronger parallels with a certain boy wizard in a school in this issue, even a room of requirement almost, with lots of magical items stored away in it.
Yeah.
But I think I'm gonna go with Non-Stop Spider-Man number 1 because I remember it kind of, and this is one, a function of the layouts, and another function of the way the story's written, and a function of Bacalo's art, where I literally had my iPad like turned all sorts of ways to look at it differently, just to see, just to study what was on the page, and that was just that was really interesting. So I'm gonna go with Non-Stop Spider-Man number 1.
His art on Peter's specifically, and I feel like you said this before on Spider-Man when the last time he was on Spider-Man, that it's a little weird.
Right.
And actually I didn't have to take Non-Stop Spider-Man from your column because apparently that's what you actually went with. That's funny. So there you go. Yeah, but yeah, it is what it is. I don't know. We'll see what happens next issue, whether I stay on it or not. That being said, before we go into the news section, we have an ad.
Our first ad of the night is for Wink, the personalized wine club. Wink is a world of wine delivered right to your door. From rosé to Cabernet to Torronté, Wink has over 100 styles of wine to discover. Ever try an orange wine? Wink connects you to a world of exclusive wines tailored to your taste and delivered directly to your door. Wink delivers 4 bottles of wine to you every month with free shipping. You can pick your own bottles or let Wink choose and match to your taste. It doesn't cost a thing to become a member, and you can skip or cancel anytime. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy an exclusive discount of $20 off your first order. To place your first order with $20 off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us/wink. That's cspn.us/WINC. Wink winds through CSPN. Do it today. And now we get into the news.
So before we get into the news, I'm going to say that, and actually we forgot to talk about this beforehand. If you have not been, if you're not caught up on WandaVision, you might want to buy out right now.
Oh no, I was gonna say, because I know that I didn't have a chance to look at the news stories, but we generally have the WandaVision stuff up front. So
And we do.
We are definitely going to be ringing the spoiler bell right now. So if you're not caught up on WandaVision, just as Roddykat said, you are now warned with the spoiler bell in 3, 2, 1.
Right. Even if you are in the chat and you are, unless you just don't care, then, we are going to spoil the pretty much the end of it. And we're not going to do a full recap like we have been doing. In fact, I'm doing I'm specifically following the CNET article.
Right.
So just to get to, as we said, the finer points. But I will go for is say that, hey, this was the last issue of WandaVision, as sad as it may be for the case. And the very short strokes is that it is the superhero, about as close as the superhero / villain fight as we were going to get. And apparently it was Agatha all along. No one was expecting that.
Who's been messing up everything?
So we got that reveal like 2 episodes ago, and apparently, that they were not joking. So there was a lot of speculation as to someone else being behind her doing what she did.
Right.
Come to find out, no, it was totally all her in this case.
It was all Agatha and Wanda.
Right.
So
now, unless
really it comes down to.
Right. Now, unless something happens in Doctor Strange or something along the lines of saying, well, no, she actually wasn't. I actually, because sometimes they've done that in comic books. Like, you'll have whole ass arcs happen and like, oh, no, I did something. It was kind of me that sent her, to do that. She just didn't know it. So we don't know if we're getting something like that from a movie or anything, but as far as we know at this point, it was pretty much that case. That being said, let me see. Let me take a quick gander at this. So the only other thing I will also say, we didn't get a whole lot of Monica, Jimmy Woo, or Darcy in this particular issue.
Right. They just make like the strictest of cameo appearances.
Right, with Monica getting probably the most of it with her one scene.
Right.
But still, yes. And then she even and her and Jimmy does have share a mid-credit scene at the beginning of that. But that being said, so like I said, for the most part, the short strokes is big superhero fight. Things have resolved. Things don't end happily for Wanda. And some comic book things kind of sort of happen that will probably come up later. I think that's pretty much that. And we also find out that Pietro was not who we thought it was.
Right. There's a couple of reveals here that debunk several fan theories that were being perpetuated throughout this series. And obviously, there's going to be people, and there were plenty of people who were disappointed because it turned out that their theories did not come true, were not proven correct by the end of the series. But you know what? That's what theorizing is we have to, and that's what this whole adventure has been.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's been amplified, one, because of the pandemic. A lot of people still are, for the most part, staying home or going out very little. So having new content like this was something that a lot of people jumped on, especially given the fact that we have not had a lot of MCU content in almost 2 years.
Right. And it's also doing this
on it.
Right. And it's also doing the thing that I kind of saw at the end of it, or at least in the last couple of days of that. Because I know there have been a couple of people who's like, I can't wait to see what kind of wild speculation is going to happen for Falcon and Winter Soldier, which I see less of that happening. Like, some of that's definitely going to happen, but less so than in WandaVision, because WandaVision was such an out of left field thing. in his execution and in what we you know what we found out it was going to be in the beginning. So
right. The way the story unfolded was completely unorthodox, and that is to its benefit.
Yes.
Because it definitely created people. It definitely created curiosity in people, and it created, some people were turned off by it, which is annoying, because why on earth would you be turned off by something in this, in this universe that starts out in like the most weird, like you said, out of left field way. That's not enough to turn me off.
Yeah.
Like do something crazy with the character maybe, but this is, the way the story's presented, that was pretty novel, and
Right.
it turned out to be explained during over the course of the show.
Right. And that just goes back to people's attention spans and whatnot, because that was definitely annoying to hear that. I was like, oh, what is this? But anyway.
Right, and a couple more things before we get back into the story itself. The way that this series was released, once the first 2 episodes were released, we got 1 episode every week, and that led to lots of people, doing internet deep dives and jumping all over the place and trying to figure out what could be happening. And part of it is, kind of a return to a way of consuming television that hasn't been that kind of went away for a little while, in the age of binging and streaming. But now with it back, at least for this, in this regard, it's kind of fun to kind of go back to that. Be like, oh, did you watch? Oh, okay. So, what do you think is going to happen next? That's pretty fun.
Right. So, yeah, I agree with everything you just said on that. But that being said, back to the story. Again, we are talking WandaVision spoilers, so if you're averse to that or if you don't care, probably another, say, 10 minutes, we'll probably be talking about it before we get into the news, which will also probably spoil some stuff.
Right.
Back to this recap. Was there anything actually? I think probably the most pressing thing outside of like we know Wanda got her name, that her finally got her name, quote unquote, at the end of the last episode. So we got that out of the way. The big fight happens. Blank Vision also shows up. He and the other Vision fight like we expected them to. And then that, I guess, a big thing that happens goes with that, which leaves the door open for something. And that's kind of sort of comic book accurate. It's not comic book accurate. That's not true at all. But it kind of plays on some of that. In fact, there's a couple of things, and one that I didn't even notice right off the bat. But so the 2 Visions fight, and they're monologuing. Of course, there's a meme that came out of that, which people have taken towards, and that was that's been a whole amusing thing in itself. But once that gets taken care of, and we get another superhero moment with the whole family and the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents and Hayward. Well, Hayward less so because he got hemmed up. But with the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, and that gets taken care of by the boys. And when Monica, Lord, why was I about to call her Lewinsky? Jesus Christ. Monica Rambeau.
Had something else on their mind.
No, sir. Monica Rambeau, who gets a little bit of a hero moment in there, which also gave me questions because we know she got her powers in a previous episode, and she knew she got it, but it is not clear as to the extent of it that she knew she had. So the fact that she did what she did with potential or not as much knowledge of her full power set that we know she has, was kind of questionable. Like, did she actually know she was going to be able to do that?
Yeah, exactly. That was very, there's a lot of things that are left to be resolved for that character, and I think that's on purpose.
Yes, because that stuff's going to be out, probably more likely going to bear out in Captain Marvel 2.
Exactly.
And I'm actually starting to question Secret Invasion at this point also because of the mid-credit scene.
Oh,
we'll get to that.
Absolutely. So you talked about essentially how these characters resolve things. The hex eventually comes to an end. because Wanda realizes that what she's doing needs to stop.
Yes, and she also turns the table. She also turns the table in a way that I kind of actually enjoyed. She turned the tables on Agatha.
I didn't see that coming.
Yeah,
Did you?
No, not really, because we should have though, because of the fact that we have seen this in comics a couple of times. But at the same time, like while it was going on, we were just so engrossed, and I get it because we were so engrossed in what was going on. We didn't. It was pretty much the flourish, as Jimmy said earlier in the episode.
That's funny.
So I love that. That's a kind of a callback to that without even saying it. But so she's just like, because I did kind of question like, yeah, she is doing a lot of missing, but it could have been just because of things in the name. But then we find out, bloop, she turned the tables on Agatha in the way that Agatha got her in the first place. And we also saw a couple of other Wanda's MCU tricks come into play.
Sure.
In this episode, so that was also good to see. But yeah,
right. So that essentially leads to, as Roddykat mentioned, the ending. We also get Hayward, just being a complete whack job, like he's shooting little kids. What?
Yeah, I still feel like his heel turn was not fully earned.
He was very two-dimensional.
Yeah.
He was not a big bad, and I think that was on purpose also, because I think and one thing that I think is going to be part of the aftermath, one of the after effects of this story, is the fact that what we didn't realize in this show was that they specifically wanted to center upon Wanda throughout the entire show. This was not necessarily about developing anything other than Wanda. We do get a little bit of Monica Rambeau,
right?
But as I said earlier, it seems like we're going to be getting more of her in Secret Invasion, possibly. And Captain Marvel 2, definitely.
Yeah.
We get a little bit of, we get obviously Monica Rambeau's introduction, and we get Agatha Harkness's introduction, but the crux of the story, the main focus, the main thrust of this entire show is Wanda, to a lesser extent, the reintroduction of the Vision.
Right.
So that's really those are really the big goals for the show. And I'm not 100% keen on promoting other podcasts. Obviously, I've promoted Binge Mode before, but I did send a link to Roddykat,
which is in the show notes. Yes,
right. It's in the show notes because it's also where a lot of our news stories come from, and the reason, and we'll get to them and what comes up in the interview on this podcast. But it's the Fat Man Beyond podcast with Kevin Smith and Mark Bernardin. And it's also on YouTube, but they were lucky enough to get director Matt Shakman on their show in essentially the immediate aftermath of episode 9. And that was huge because it answered so many questions. It became so informative and really cleared any doubts I had in my head about what they were trying to accomplish during the season. So I feel like they definitely accomplished what they set out to do, and they had a very clear-eyed notion of what direction they wanted to go in, despite the fact that we all wanted to see all of these developments because, like I said, partially because we hadn't seen any MCU stuff in so long. We wanted to see if this would set up that much more of Phase 4. Even though we did get a couple of things set up, we wanted so much more because we've been starved. We've been deprived of this for so long that I think if it weren't for the pandemic, we would all been happy that, we got Captain Marvel, Captain Marvel 2 developments. Oh, we got Photon developments. Oh, we got Agatha. We would have been happy to get what like kind of a normal amount of teases and mild fan service to move forward into Phase 4.
Right.
But I think we were asking for much more just because of the circumstances. So
right, because that engineer thing didn't bear out. The engineer theory that people were talking about didn't bear out. And I told people, it was like, yeah, I don't see them doing that here because it didn't make any kind of sense to do it here.
Right. Right. And if you listen to what Matt Shackman says, it made all the sense in the world.
Right.
So like I mentioned, I don't know, did you have a chance to watch it or,
No,
or,
not
or,
yet.
or listen
Not
to
yet.
it?
Mm-mm.
So, you're getting some of it in the articles.
Right.
Right, you're definitely getting some of that stuff in the articles, but it's worth it to. And if you're not driving somewhere, or if you're not like trying to listen to the podcast, you could just pull up the YouTube video and listen to them interview Shackman, and it's really one of the better done reviews. And like I said, it's right on the heels of the episode dropping, so
Mm-hmm.
it really does help. I think enhance the experience of watching the series. Listening or watching that interview will enhance your appreciation of the series.
Right. So that being said, I know, yeah, like everything you said about the whole Agatha and Monica, loved all of that regardless. And even the resolution of how Agatha got dealt with was interesting because that kind of opens the door for them to bring her back up at some point. And also still weirdly enough harkens back to Pleasant Hill, to Pleasant Springs or Pleasant Hill. That's what it was. In a sense.
Right. Remember, I was always calling it Silent Hill after the video game.
Yeah. Which almost got me doing that at one point too.
Right.
But there was something else I was going to say on that, but that I can't remember. So it'll probably come back on it. So we should probably move on to the post-credit scenes, which is I don't want to say it's the meat of it, because everything that happened in the actual episode prior to that was kind of, was definitely kind of wrapping things up. Oh, the one thing I forgot to mention in the whole Pietro thing, boner.
Oh, I don't want to spoil what Shackman says. It's actually a reference too.
Oh yeah, I know, and I know what the reference was, because I believe I was watching another video and it had a close up of something. And I was like, yeah, that totally was. And even if you're given the whole sitcom, if it's what I'm thinking that you're talking about, if the whole sitcom references that they've homages that they've done throughout the course of the thing, this definitely plays heavily into that.
Right, it's definitely a sitcom reference.
Yes, so. and I knew that because when he said it, I was like, really, they actually did that, huh? Okay. And then once it was confirmed with what I saw in the Easter egg video I saw, I was like, oh wow, okay.
Right.
So that was cool. But yeah, like I said, the Pietro stuff was a bummer, but it is, I halfway kind of expected like whether they were going to do that or not. But let's see. The mid-credit scene happens after Wanda.
Hold that thought.
Okay.
Hold that thought, because let's not give short shrift to the fact that and this is something I took from the interview, is that we saw the stages of grief being played out by Wanda.
Thank you. That's what I was going to mention, because we mentioned this last episode that this whole thing has been about her, and going back to what you were saying earlier, also this whole thing has been about Wanda going through the stages of grief, and
right, yeah, and we get some resolution, maybe not final resolution, but some resolution to her coping and dealing with the stages of grief in this episode. So let's not give that short shrift.
Oh yeah, no. That was yes.
Right.
That was the exact thing I was going to mention.
Right. We shouldn't just be critical of the fact that we didn't get what we wanted in terms of developments for the MCU.
But here's the thing, though. It was so great.
Hold the thought. Okay. But what we got was Wanda's story.
Right. But that's all I was going to say to add on to that. It was so great that they did that like that. Because, it took the whole 9 episodes to kind of do it. And you could kind of see early on, like once things started happening, that was the case. Whether you wanted to see that or not. But it was pretty much told early on that it's like, this is totally what's going through. And you just see the stages as they're going on with, with every other episode and this and the other. But it was done great. Like, I can't think of a better way to have done that. And it's all in service of getting her. Some people are postulating that she could be the new big bad of Phase 4. I don't know if they're going to do that.
Right, go either way, and that's the best part. That it's not completely telegraphed.
Right, but it gets her to a place to where she could go on to do other things, and we know she's going to be in the new Doctor Strange movie. So it gets her past this point that somebody inevitably probably would have said, like, did she actually have time enough to grieve or anything or like that? But yeah, no, it's right here in this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the one thing that I'm actually kind of bummed out that we didn't get to see, and I kind of get, I guess, why, because this is probably going to come up later. In the comic books, just like somehow it played out here, Wanda saw Vision's body splayed out on the table last episode or two, whatever. Last episode. But then New Black Vision comes back at some point later, and they have the little talking, and he's like, "I don't know who you are. I mean, I have all the memories, but I don't have the connection that we had." That was the thing that was in the comics. That part doesn't happen. But at some point, I'm pretty sure that's probably going to happen at some point in Phase 4. You gotta wonder. That being
likely.
Yeah,
it seems likely because the story of the Pale or White Vision is unresolved.
Right.
That's another thing that we have to mention, because we do have the reintroduction of Vision after what happened in Infinity War. So that is left unanswered, which is good because we know that's going to come up later on in Phase 4.
Right, but also we know it gets to a place, the most logical place it was going to with that.
Right. Or literally logical, because that's one of the ways the story, that his story resolved itself, because we get the superhero battles. We get Agatha versus Wanda, but we also get Magic Vision versus Pale White Vision. And we don't get too much combat between the visions. What we do get instead is a philosophical debate,
right,
which stopped everybody in their tracks, and I know got some very interesting comments and reviews from watchers.
Right, it was an actual fight with yourself. That was both physical and philosophical.
Right.
So that was like they did some really great things with WandaVision that I appreciate, even along for the ride as the weeks went by. But yeah, so going back to the mid-credit scene, Wanda, this is after Wanda leaves, the FBI starts cleaning up. Jimmy Woo's taking charge, would love to see it. And Jimmy Woo and Monica talk for a brief moment before another agent, which I don't know if I can't remember if it's that same agent, but I think there was a reference to an agent in a video that I saw that might be reference to someone else in the MCU from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. At that, I don't know if that actually holds true or not, but I saw that kind of interesting because I don't remember seeing the name popped up. Regardless, Jimmy Woo, Monica talk. They go their separate ways. Monica gets led into this movie theater where she's going to be talking to some folks, but it comes to find out that this agent is a Skrull who was sent by and I'm quoting this article here and quoting the person, sent by a friend of Monica's late mom.
Right.
Now that could be one of two people. Most notably, as this article says, and I totally went towards, was Nick Fury, because we know, because the Skrull even points up to the sky, and we know Nick Fury's up in space with Talos. Well, Talos was on Earth as of Spider-Man, but still.
And this is happening before Far From Home.
Do we know that?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't pick up on that part, but I assumed it was
because this is happening essentially on the heels of Endgame.
Weeks.
Right? Maybe less than weeks. A month, right?
Right.
Far From Home, I think is intended to be the same school year or maybe the next school year. So that's how I read that. That we're fortunate to know that Nick is in space because of Far From Home, but that actually happens after this WandaVision series.
So I feel like I slightly disagree with that because of when Monica came back during the blip, supposedly was the same time it was the same time everybody else did, which was shown in Far From Home.
Right, but that was a flashback. Remember, the blip is in Endgame.
Right. But I'm saying, but when everybody came back, that's when that's when the flashback came back. So it had to have been sometime after that. So I'm not sure. I mean, you're probably right in that. Yeah, it could very well be before that part, that end credit scene in Far From Home, but it doesn't feel like
No,
it.
I'm not talking about the end credit scene in Far From Home. I'm talking about all of Far From Home.
But that kind of
Other than that little video, because what they show is a video montage. Remember?
right. I do
In Far
remember
From
that.
Home, they show a video montage of the blip and the effects of the blip. But remember, they had to go back to school. They had to go on a school trip. So I think some time has passed. And remember, Aunt May is doing that help, whatchamacallit, she started that like self-help group,
Right.
the support group, that is.
Right.
So I think I think in just the, and obviously
I see what
timelines
you're
are
saying.
wonky when it comes to Spidey, but
Yeah.
just from the effects of the blip and what we've seen develop so far, it seems like, and this is not that, I'm not putting them into like a specific window of time,
Sure.
more that's finer or more precise than just one comes before the other.
Right.
That's all.
Right. Yeah. Again, like, yeah, we don't definitely know. We have no definite time frames, and I see what you're saying about that part. And yeah, that could still bear out, but like I said, until we get like a more concrete timeline on that, we don't necessarily know. I still kind of sort of question it, but yeah, that kind of makes more sense.
Right.
Regardless,
the reason why I say that is that I think it's meant to imply that it's Nick Fury. I don't think there's question about it because of what we saw in Far From Home. But we're lucky to have seen that because it's not actually in sequence. So
right, but and only like I said, well, yeah, like I said, that will bear out at some point. I'm fairly sure, and I'm going to assume definitely that is going to be Captain Marvel 2. But going back to what we were saying, we know Secret Invasion is coming up, which is a show, not a movie, on Disney Plus. It's going to be Nick Fury and Talos doing whatever it is they were doing. It's reasonably assumed, or it can be reasonably assumed, we don't know this for certain at all, that Monica could potentially show up in Secret Invasion. And I guess it kind of depends on when Captain Marvel is going to come up in relation to Secret Invasion.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily hinge on that, but you can kind of see where that kind of goes. Because like I said, I know that show is upcoming, and I know there's a time frame when the show, but I have to look at the whatever the tentative schedule is so far for that. So we know it's set up Captain Marvel 2, definitely. We potentially know Secret Invasions could be possible where Monica shows up, and I'll be glad if she did. And then we get into the actual end credit scene where we cut to some out of the way place. Some people are saying Sokovia, some people are saying I can't remember some people what other people are saying, but regardless, we see some remote cabin.
It's a couple. Yeah, exactly. I was about to say, go ahead, and I'll mention some of the other options that people have mentioned.
Yeah. Even one in relation to an upcoming show, but we kind of pan in on Wanda at this remote cabin out in the woods somewhere, not in the woods, but near a mountain. I honestly thought Wundagore for like a brief second, but I don't know if that bears out.
I was about to say now that we're talking about it, I was going to hold off until you're done, but there's conjecture whether or not it was at the base of like Mount Wundagore.
Mm-hmm.
There's conjecture about whether or not that was Bruce Banner's cabin.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe she got that from the Avengers files or something, or from Banner even. Right. You never know. So but that was one of the other. Those are some of the other options. But she's in a distant cabin looking for some alone time. And what is she doing? She's making some tea or coffee, or she's definitely boiling some water, right?
Well, at least one of her is.
What's that exactly? What that's what her physical self is doing, and what we also see is her astral form suspended or floating with the Darkhold in front of her, and she's flipping through it, and we get the voices of the voice, at least I think, of Billy. I don't think that's Tommy.
Yeah.
Or no, it could be Tommy and not Billy. It's one or the other.
I think it's Billy.
Speed?
No. Billy.
I think it's Tommy Wiccan.
No, Billy is Wiccan.
Oh, is that Billy Kaplan? Oh,
Yeah.
that's right. Tommy's.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
Tommy Speed.
I got them
Yeah.
backwards.
Yeah, it happens. I've done it. But I want to say that's Billy, but we're not really sure. It could have been both of them because there's a little bit of echo on it. So, but it kind of feels like it's one over the other, but we don't know. So they're in that part. There is also a little bit of some would say conjecture and everything, because what we know about, especially like say Doctor Strange's astral self, he especially classically in the cartoon in the comic books and whatnot, he's usually not conscious. Or his body, he's pretty much left his body. His spirit has left his body. Because even we saw a similar thing happen in Doctor Strange, where his body was asleep, and he was up, studying in his astral form. But in this case, we see Wanda fully awake, making some tea or coffee, whatever the case may be, while her astral form, or at least some people think it's her astral form. Some people think it might not even be. It might be another version of her, because people are still on that. Is that evil Wanda or not? Kick.
Right. Well, it's not clear.
Right.
Because of what the physical form is doing.
Exactly.
It could just be a decoy. My initial thought was that it was a decoy, just in case there was like a nosy neighbor, because she's dealt with nosy neighbors just recently.
Definitely.
That there is a decoy that is kind of doing normal things while she's doing what she's doing with the Darkhold. So
Right.
that was actually my initial thought. And then when I started reading, I was like, oh, that's probably her astral form, the way we saw it in Doctor Strange, but it's not 100% certain.
Right. But the problem with that is, like I said, what I just said, with the whole Doctor Strange was not conscious, or his physical form was not conscious while he was in astral form. But we also find out in the course of this episode, or was the last episode, 1 or 2, that she's stronger than the Sorcerer Supreme. So that could also still bear out that she could do that.
Right. That's the claim by these witches.
Right. So technically, maybe she could be strong enough to hold two forms at one time. We know she can bend reality. We know she can keep a whole town under her sway, at a given time. So it's not outside the realm of possibilities that she could hold 2 forms at one time. Right. But yeah, she's studying the Darkhold, which by the way has been seen in Agents, and someone said it was also in Runaways.
Yes.
Was it the same one that was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D? Because we know they're like kind of different.
No, but they named them as the Darkhold.
Right. And we also, for some strange reason, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D is not even canon anymore, quote unquote canon anymore. So
yeah, it faded away from canon in the MCU.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think early on it obviously strove to be part of MCU canon.
Right.
But they went in a different direction once Winter Soldier passed.
And again, like you were saying earlier with that other property that was kind of thing, what if it was on Disney Plus?
Right.
And granted, yeah, unlike that though, they did definitely, like you said, did try to kind of keep it in line with what's going on with the MCU. So I don't know. I kind of know where it kind of went out of canon, but I hate the fact that it did, because that kind of sucks. So, because I don't know if I've seen or heard people like, yeah, well, now they're treating it like it's another reality. And I'm like, I don't know if that's true or not, but that's kind of ridiculous.
Right. Well, because they did a time jump also. So they're definitely, I think, treating it as another reality, or at least another branch of reality,
right.
or a branch of a timeline, that is.
Right.
So that's how I see them treating Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. My hope is that they do find a way to fold Daisy Johnson in. I hope
I take all of them.
What's that?
I take all of them. May, Coulson back. All of them.
Absolutely. The question of whether or not they're ever going to acknowledge in the MCU what happened in Runaways, or what happened in Cloak and Dagger, or what happened in
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
No. What happened to Ghost Rider? That is.
Specifically
in
right.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Gotcha.
Because that's a shame if they don't use, or if they have to reintroduce a Ghost Rider.
Or heaven forbid they go back to Nicolas Cage. Good gosh.
So ultimately, the Darkhold, just to wrap the discussion on the Darkhold, I think it's too much to hope that it's all the same Darkhold, but I would love that they retcon it so that it is all the same Darkhold, and it's made its way from Morgan Le Fay to Ghost Rider to now Agatha Harkness.
So here's the thing about that. If I remember correctly, and I could be slightly misled about this. The Darkhold looks differently, and I think they even said this in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. The Darkhold looks different to anyone who's reading it. So that could still bear out why it looks so different in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Runaways and here in the actual MCU.
I remember reading the same thing or hearing the same thing. Listen, like I said, as long as they try to do it and it makes a little sense, I'm fine with that.
Right.
Because that means they're folding in a lot of characters that have already been established. The hard work of establishing them has already been done. That's really my point.
Right.
I don't want them to have to, keep killing themselves to introduce us to some of these newer characters when we've got old characters that really could just use a new coat of paint and just throw them into the MCU proper.
Yeah. True that. So that being said, I can't remember. So guess what, folks? All your theories are wrong. We didn't get Mephisto that we know of.
We didn't get the FF. We didn't get Mr. Fantastic.
Nope.
I love the memes going around. Now in every show it's gonna be like, oh, that was Mephisto.
Yeah. We can safely assume Mephisto's probably not going to show up in Falcon and Winter Soldier. Loki, who knows? And so actually, speaking of Loki, I've said this before and I will say it again. WandaVision has made me so much more hyped for Loki than I had already been because of what we know was going to be going on in Loki. Because if they're
time variant authority stuff.
Well, that yes, exactly. But if they're willing to get this crazy with WandaVision, and it's not the same people behind it, there is hope that they could probably do something like that with Loki.
Right. Well, the world of magic in the MCU has grown by leaps and bounds now.
Right.
And to see that Doctor Strange was, even though Wanda, they say that Wanda was really the one Avenger that really could have taken on Thanos, but this is Thanos without the gauntlet. Doctor Strange was the one Avenger that with Thanos with the gauntlet actually didn't stand toe to toe, but definitely had, a weak puncher's chance.
Right.
Because he was able to, fend off so many attacks that Thanos is using with the almost complete Infinity Gauntlet.
Right. Captain Marvel could have taken him. There's that callback.
Right. I mean, listen, there's lots of debate for that, but let's not poo-poo how the use of magic has really expanded. No, I was gonna say about the use of magic really expanding the storytelling possibilities in the MCU now,
right,
with the introduction of Doctor Strange and the introduction of powers that don't necessarily have the best basis in science.
Right.
Because they went one way with Thor and now they've gone completely the other way.
Right. Which, yeah, and I believe that is probably the last section of the MCU that had needed to be opened up. Like we got time. Well, we got time travel. We got magic. We got alternate realities. So we got a multiverse. Yeah, I can't remember what else that would need to well, yeah, there is that. But
yeah, that's pretty much it. I absolutely get where you're going with that, because that was a big thing. And I swear, if we went into the archives of the Comic Book Chronicles and we talked about the introduction of magic into the MCU, and at Tim Dog 98 was talking about, man, I'm not down with magic.
Yes.
I wish we could go and pull those archives right now and be like, this is what Tim Dog used to say about magic.
Yeah, unfortunately, we do have a very deep archive, and it would take a minute because we don't have them cataloged that exactly.
Exactly. Like it'd be nice if we had all that stuff like keyworded and we could just like pull it up like Tim doesn't like magic, and we went right to that episode or episodes,
right,
multiple episodes where he mentions that. So,
but hey, if somebody wants to start a Comic Book Chronicles wiki and do all of that, you go right on the head. I can't help you on that one.
Exactly. So, but like I said, it's and to kind of take what you were saying and expand upon it, where the expansion of magic really has opened up several storytelling avenues that they could go, that the MCU creators can go down, and like you said, really gives the creators behind Loki license to go in all sorts of craziness and all sorts of crazy directions.
One would hope. like obviously Falcon and Winter Soldier, as far as we know it right now, which is going to be in another week or so, or actually wait, in another week, not even so. Because as of this recording right now, it'll be a couple of hours from now, a week from now. But
what we get this week is actually, and by the time you guys get this, if you're watching this live or on YouTube, you'll be getting it, roughly simultaneously with the release of the making of documentary.
Oh right,
of WandaVision that's coming out this week.
Yeah, which we had news on that, but yeah.
Right, and I think that'll come up in the news. I think I saw that real quick as I was scrolling, but yeah, so we are only a week away from the release of Falcon and Winter Soldier, and it's going to be a more straightforward story in the sense that there's still going to be twists and turns. Don't get me wrong. I think there's going to be it's a modified adventure spy story.
Just more grounded.
Falcon and Winter Soldier,
Right. Yeah.
So
so if you're expecting WandaVision shenanigans, there's no reason to believe there will be. But yeah, if there's any twists and turns, it'll be more grounded for sure.
Because that's where we're going to get the fantastic... No, I'm kidding.
That would be messed up. That would absolutely be messed up. Like I'm telling people,
cry laughing, be like, "Yo, they got us. Feige got us really good."
Pretty much. Because I was telling people, like, don't hold out hope for that. It's probably going to be... They wouldn't do that for this. They would do it in, if anything, Doctor Strange, because that makes totally much sense. But we'll see if that's even going to happen. That being said, I think we've wrung that one dry.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to go and do a rewatch?
Eventually. Maybe not right away, but eventually.
Yeah.
Just out of nostalgia, just because I really did enjoy the fact that we were getting MCU stuff on a regular basis again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true. And it helps people helps most people's attention anyway. Obviously, with the numbers that it got, which we will probably find out of next week fully. But actually, we probably should have, but I can't remember if I got that in there. Regardless, so let us move on to the actual news section, and we'll start off with the cinematic news like we normally do.
Let's transition.
Mm-hmm. And again, we're still not off the WandaVision train just yet, but we're going to try to blow through some of this because we already talked about some of it. WandaVision brought the Darkhold to the MCU. Here's what could it mean. And this was a spoiler for, WandaVision episode 9, if that was not clear in any of this we've said. And the article just pretty much break down what they think could potentially happen, some of which maybe we even mentioned. And even if you don't know about the origins of the Darkhold, this article will definitely bring you up to speed on that. Next up.
Alrighty. Dun, 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 dun. Agatha all along nears 1.8 million Spotify streams ahead of the WandaVision finale, and since then probably has a lot more. It's got to be in lots of playlists already because it is proven to be very popular. It has proven to be a very popular song. Yeah. I still find myself humming it every once in a while.
Oh, absolutely.
I was about to say, and the fact that they implemented the word perfidious into it is just awesome.
Yeah, that was well done. Shout out to the people shout out to the folks who did the music on, especially the theme song. Some of them were a little iffy and off, but for the most part, they were spot on for what they were supposed to be. Referencing what they were supposed to be. But Agatha all along has pretty much gotten to the point where there is a person, and I'm gonna shout out this person out who will probably not even see this, but shout out to a friend of mine, Kittercat, who we have co-opted the lyrics to Agatha all along to her name, and we cite it constantly when on Twitch chat. So it has gotten some legs all the way around. Next up though, speaking of the theme song, Agatha's All Along's theme song took a half an hour to record.
Bet you didn't even notice that it took a half an hour, right?
Right. So yeah, there's the article with Catherine Hahn, who actually from what I've seen has done a lot of things. I think we've said before. Some would say a tour de force in WandaVision. But she was in a recent interview where she spoke about her interest. Actually, there's a couple of things in here citing her in here, but I think I skipped one. But she was talking about how how much fun she had in doing the song, and she knew the fact that Igus was going to get it, and how the director and the creator, brought the idea to it and all that kind of good mess, and asked her if she was singing it, and she was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And but this article kind of goes into with that whole thing. We wouldn't own this article too, but it's an interesting read. You should check it out, and it's not that long of a read either. So, outside of the fact of how long it took to record that song. Next up.
All right, next up. So as I mentioned earlier, Matt Shackman was on the Fat Man Beyond podcast, and there's several articles that we're citing here that make reference to some of the things brought up. One of them in this article is that there is a deleted scene from WandaVision that would have seen Agatha's rabbit familiar turn into a demon. Go to the article and go to the interview for more. But at the end of the day, I believe Shackman said something along the lines of, everyone would have said, "That's Mephisto," and that would have just created more of a headache. But they ended up deleting the scene. But yeah, there was an intention to use Monsieur. What was it? Senior Scratchy, not Monsieur Scratchy. Senior Scratchy.
I was bummed that it wasn't a black cat. Just to be a little more direct, but if that had happened, I would have enjoyed it, but I would still have been like, man, that could have been Ebony. That could have been directly Ebony.
Right.
Anyway, next up. Oh yeah, so the WandaVision director addresses controversial line about grief, and I believe, is this also coming from that? I'm not sure. And I think it's also talking about the all the memes going to come from it. But a line about grief from the latest episode of WandaVision not latest, because this was for the last episode and not the final episode. IGN spoke to series director Matt Shackman to offer some insight on the original intentions behind the line. I am just going to go ahead and say, like, if you actually want that, then read this article. And we're talking about the line, "What if grief, if not love, persevering," from episode 8. If you want to know, you can read this article. If you don't want to and just want to let it wash over you for the memes that it is, then you know what? Let it roll. Next up.
Right. It's just weird. Not weird, but I guess there's always going to be two sides, more than two sides, just multiple sides to the argument. And now, I understand, but I think, I think the original intent, or the main intent of the line is fairly straightforward, and if for anyone who's experienced loss can really appreciate, I think the original, or at least the general intent, let's put it that way,
right,
of the line. So, all right, next up, WandaVision's Catherine Hahn introduced sex jokes to the series. So she would keep turning to, she states in the article that she would keep turning to Lizzie, that's Lizzie Olsen, and Paul Bettany during the making of this, and be like, "I can't believe that this is my entrance into the Marvel world." And that, let's see, where are the sex jokes? Where is this?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything specific.
That she just made sex jokes, I guess, during the making of the series, I guess.
Well, there's I guess there's some things that her character said that could be construed as
innuendo. Yeah, some innuendo.
So that's probably it. Yeah.
Alrighty.
Next up, the Zoop. WandaVision showrunner says there was no backup plan. There was no plan B for Pietro casting. So basically, Jack Schaefer said, like, I believe it says in this article, it says, using Peters, Evan Peters, was an enormous question mark for a very long time, she told the New York Times. And it took a while to figure out if it would be possible. It was late that it was finally confirmed that we could do it, but we were writing for it. Evan is such a chameleon in that way that could play an amalgamation of Full House's Uncle Jesse, Nick and Joey from Friends, and also Boner from Growing Pains. Schaefer admitted that if the bosses at Marvel had said no to using actors for the X-Men universe, that she didn't have an alternative. And she also go back to quote to say the ground is also shifting, and sometimes that's how the amazing things occur. There are a couple of scenes that I wrote, and I'm like, this is genius. And then I'm like, no, you can't have that toy. You can find a different toy that suits your show better. But there wasn't a plan beyond that, and there were just very intense hopes and dreams, and they were met. And this article is going on to say that this apparently contradicts something that Feige said last month. So I don't know if that's true or not, but it is what it is. Next.
Alrighty, next up. So as I mentioned earlier, this week, Friday, March 12th, to be more precise, you can go behind the scenes with Marvel Studios assembled the making of WandaVision. So that will allow you to take a peek into the making of this series. So go on Disney Plus and enjoy that, and it will help tide you over until Falcon and the Winter Soldier next week.
Absolutely. Miss Marvel set video shows Kamala Khan dressed as Captain Marvel. A new video from the set of Miss Marvel showcases a key element of the comics in play. The Iman Vellani Brazil account on Twitter posted a video of Iman Vellani on the set of Miss Marvel, climbing atop the roof of a house as the Marvel Cinematic Universe's Miss Marvel. Her character wears a red and blue costume similar to Captain Marvel's Avengers Endgame. I mean, that's kind of her comic character anyway. But anyway,
right.
This scene marks another element from the first arc of Miss Marvel, No Normal, that will come into play in the series. And if you know about that particular arc, which I believe is the Kelly Sue DeConnick one, which is great. No, wait, I'm sorry. Miss Marvel. So it's G. Willow Wilson. Sorry.
Right.
Sorry. But yeah, go back and read that if you haven't already, because it's a very good arc and very good introduction to Kamala. Next up,
there are a pair of TV spots for the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which have been released, featuring the titular. What's on my mind, right? Titular duo in action, and teasing their eventual showdown with Helmut Zemo. The first clip features Sam Wilson reciting the speech Steve Rogers gave during Captain America: The Winter Soldier, and the second promo features a speech about how the country is vulnerable and needs new heroes, as well as Wilson and Bucky Barnes is discussing their working relationship.
Yep. So we're gonna get all buddy cop here in the next week.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of Falcon and Winter Soldier, the Falcon and Winter Soldier Marvel Legends series, which is only a couple episodes, but in Marvel Legends is already a series, is on Disney Plus at this moment. So you can go on here as of actually last week, right after WandaVision ended, could go and see the couple of episodes, the short episodes that are showcasing Falcon and Winter Soldier, respectively. And basically, all what the Marvel Legends series is like just like the Vision of Scarlet Witch one. You pretty much see all of the finer points of their time in the MCU, with various scenes from various movies. Some of it some of it I'm actually glad didn't rehash the other, because they have shared a few different scenes. So you see one scene in another that you don't see in the other, but they did it pretty well. So if you need a little refresher on Falcon and Winter Soldier in their MCU, their MCU showings, check those out. Next up,
What sets the Falcon apart from the MCU's other heroes, according to Kevin Feige. Basically, Feige says that Sam Wilson is played by Mackie is different than a Thor or Black Panther because he's not from another planet or a king from another country, Feige told Variety. He's an African-American man. He's got experience in the military and doing grief counseling with soldiers who have PTSD. But where did he grow up? Who is his family? Mackie was excited to dig into it as this black man in particular, in the Marvel version of the world outside our window. Okay.
Yeah, I know some people are staying away from Falcon and Winter Soldier because of Anthony Mackie and some things he has said in the past. I'm still going to watch it besides that.
Cut the check? No, I'm kidding.
No, not that one. Uh, nice.
Cut the check.
Marvel Cinematic Universe actor Frank Grillo says he initially declined to reprise his role as Brock Rumlow, aka Crossbones, in 2019's Endgame. However, he ended up doing the cameo after all at the insistence of his son. He was on some podcast and he pretty much laid that out, and I'm not even going to go through it because he pretty much sounds like a jerk when the way he's talking. That's just me. But you can check that out in the article yourself. But his son, his 22-year-old son, was the one that told him to do it, and he did it. Nice. Go.
Okay, all done?
Mm-hmm.
All righty. Next up. So there are some, oh my gosh, there are some photos, and unfortunately, they're hard to avoid.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in this day and age of social media and browsing the web, but there are some photos leaking from the Thor 4 Love and Thunder set. And this particular article cites behind the scenes photos of Natalie Portman flexing flying skills in behind the scenes photos. And, photos from the set show Portman dressed as Modest Jane in Chuck Taylor sneakers, a hoodie, and jeans, experimenting with her strength and newfound ability to fly. There also, do you have an article about her being jacked also?
The pictures are in here, but not specifically about her being jacked. Yeah.
Oh no, there's pictures of her like her arms right now, like the way she's like kind of built her upper body up.
Right.
And she really has put in a
she's
decent amount of work.
Yeah, like the
jacked up.
Right, like the pictures that they show here don't necessarily do it that much, but also as much as I hate to say it, they kind of, when I first saw them, they kind of look jacked. I mean, not jacked, photoshopped, but like no, that's her. That's apparently. But also the next time you see her on Saturday Night Live and she's doing one of those Natalie Portman raps things, and she's got the guns out, you'll know why.
For real.
So why you need a hammer when you got guns?
She has totally put on some muscle mass, especially in her upper body. It's wild, man.
Yeah. So hey, we'll see how that all pans out when Love and Thunder comes out. Next up, James Gunn debunks rumors of Zac Efron joining Guardians of the Galaxy #3. So here, a little bit before this, sometimes you when you're pulling up news stories, sometimes you get rumors that seem enticing. Some people run with said rumors, and then they get deliciously I'm not trying to give them that much credit, but sometimes they get debunked, rightfully so, in a manner befitting the nature of said rumors. And that's what happened here. So in response to a report from the Illuminati, which, yes, we have used them before, but just as in, little things to, pick at, and not necessarily as, gospel. Originally stated that James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy 2 was currently casting for Adam Warlock. The filmmaker responded on Twitter, confirming that there's, quote, no casting underway for Volume 3. Gunn also addressed the outlet reporting that Marvel's looking to cast a 30-year-old Caucasian male who is described as both a superhero type and a Zac Efron type, which we have seen a couple of articles recently about people doing those quote-unquote types. So, yeah, that's in their articles, which is ridiculous. In what world, he says, in what world would I only cast a Caucasian if the character has gold skin? And if I wanted a Zac Efron type, wouldn't I go for Zac Efron? Which I feel like is a thing we have said when articles like that saying XYZ is looking for XYZ type. We've said that before. But Gunn pretty much did that, and people kind of went wild with it. It's like, oh, he burned up real good, and this, that, and the other. I'm like, no, he kind of just did what he should have done. It was good, but it wasn't like he didn't blow up the internet like people act like he's doing. Like he was doing with it. Like he just corrected some folks who was wrong. So let that be a lesson to folks, to news outlets that kind of run with gossip site or rumor sites as gospel. Because I've seen many a retraction on there, including one amusing one on Twitter. Like they put the tweet out and then they kept the tweet, but then put, oh yeah, update da 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 right above it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in reposting it. So I was like, well, you could just fix your article. Anyway, next up.
So Brie Larson, while responding to another post on Twitter, confirmed that she and actor Tessa Thompson are cooking something up. It's a mystery project and it's in the works. So we obviously recognize these actors for being Carol Danvers, aka Captain Marvel, and the Valkyrie, respectively, in the MCU. What they're teasing may not be an MCU project, but something else. So we will see what that mystery project is.
Right. Yeah. Most likely not MCU. But yeah, I'm curious to see what they get into. Disney CEO denies conservative blacklist accusation. So this is not necessarily on the heels because it's been a minute of that whole Gina Carano firing from The Mandalorian, which they were right in doing. Disney CEO Bob Chapek, I guess, says that the company doesn't have a blacklist designed to punish conservatives, enlightened in Gina Carano's firing of The Mandalorian. Shouldn't have to come out and say this bullshit, but you know there were some people stoking the fires of that because they're stupid. During the Walt Disney Company's 2021 annual meeting of shareholders, an investor told Chapek that it was clear Disney had a blacklist against conservatives after Carano's firing, and comparing being a what she said. Y'all know what she said. We don't have to rehash all that stupid shit she said. But no, they fired her because she was wrong. So yeah. It's dumb, and I don't know why they felt that they had to do it, but I guess they had to for the shareholders, just save face or whatever. So it's good that they actually did do that. But it does see here, it says, I don't really see Disney as characterizing itself as a left-leaning or right-leaning, as Bob Jacobs says, yet as standing for values that are universal. Values of respect, values of decency, values of integrity, and values of inclusion, and so on and so on and so on. So yeah, that happened. Next up,
alrighty. Disney Plus has surpassed 100 million subscribers in less than year and a half of launch. Within less than a year and a half of launch. It was announced that as of January 2nd, 2021, there were just over 94 million. Executives didn't say what pushed Disney Plus over 100 million subscribers. The recent success of WandaVision and Raya and the Last Dragon, which was good, by the way, likely helped.
I would imagine Mandalorian season 2, which was not long, ending before WandaVision. I mean, I don't know if it was in time for quarter, but definitely you could pretty safely say WandaVision, and at the most, Mandalorian 2 season 2.
Right, I was about to say Mandalorian wrapped in the winter, right?
I think so, yeah.
Right. So, but remember, this is they announced as of January 2nd, there were just over 94 million.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. So
additional 6+ million came in probably it's probably easier to attribute that to WandaVision and Raya and anything else.
So Raya just came out though, so I don't know if we can very much attributed that to now. And I know I've heard people saying that it was all right, and I didn't. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this after the fact, after the show. But yeah, being that that's kind of newer coming out than WandaVision, you can definitely say that. But I'm not entirely sure. Let's see. Final date of The Mandalorian was November 12th. So yeah.
Right.
It definitely wasn't that then.
And this shareholders meeting was when?
It was like
last week or so?
January, as of January 2nd. So and that was probably that same shareholders meeting from like a week or two ago, whatever it was. So yeah.
Yeah, this article is March 9th. So so it's earlier this week. So yeah, let's say the shareholders meeting was earlier this week or last week. So that fits.
So definitely WandaVision. Next up. Live action. No one asked for this. Live action Powerpuff Girls taps Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. alums in lead role. Oh boy. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. alums Chloe Bennett and Dove Cameron will be joining Yana Peralt as the lead cast in the CW's live action adaptation of the Powerpuff Girls. According to Variety, Bennett will portray Blossom, Cameron has been cast as Bubbles, and Perrault will play Buttercup. Why is this a thing? Don't get me wrong, I like Chloe Bennett enough to watch her in some things, even after whatever she said and whoever she was dating, but I don't know. Do we need a live action? Do we need a live action any much thing anymore?
No
Next
comment.
Up. Yeah, next up.
I got nothing good to say about this. So.
Next up.
You know, I'm glad. Listen, I'm glad that Chloe Bennett and Dove Cameron are getting work. That's
absolutely,
good.
absolutely.
Pretty much that's the only good thing I can come up with on this one. So.
Right.
Alrighty, next up, The Flash kicks off its season 7 with spoiler alert, a major character death.
Is it a major character though?
I don't know, man. I haven't watched this show in ages, so I'm not going to judge what this headline says. All I know is that somebody bites the big one in the season 7 premiere. So,
and I'm gonna go ahead and spoil it. It's another Wells. So if you know anything about that character in relation to the Flash TV show, there's been a bunch of them.
Oh, all right. Well, I don't care, but you know, the point is, anyone who is a fan of these CW shows, we didn't want to necessarily spoil you. So
yeah, it's the most recent Wells. I don't know if the Council of Wells is still active or even if that was an actual thing. But regardless, hey, there you go. And I kind of spoiled it for myself because I haven't watched season 7 yet, so it doesn't. It is what it is. But next up, though, Doom Patrol cast Doctor Who. I'm going to insert that in there, and Chilling Adventures of Sabrina's Michelle Gomez as classic DC villain. So yes, the name Michelle Gomez, if you are a Doctor Who fan, should ring a big bell for you. I would argue over the Sabrina show, but that's just me because I've seen it and I know the article writer, who is our very own Tim, may or may not have seen Doctor Who. I know he's not a Doctor Who fan, so he might not have seen it. And I do also know that the first couple of entries in IMDb, and I'm not by any means trying to call him out with this, but like I said, he more recently would see Doom Patrol and probably Sabrina more than actually I'm never sure about Sabrina at this point over Doctor Who, but I know the first couple of them would be actually weirdly enough it's Sabrina and DuckTales if I remember from the IMDb that I saw, and then it goes into Doctor Who in this. Or this is upcoming. So yeah, so according to TV Line, Gomez's character will be a series regular as she arrives at Doom Manor with a very specific mission, if only she could remember it. Madame Rogue, I'm guessing.
Rouge,
is it Rouge?
You totally fell into.
Yeah, I know. I was like, that's why I was looking. I was like, is it Rouge or Rose?
The typo that everybody back in the day used to do.
Oh, I still do it.
Write Rogue and they would type in or write Rouge.
Right.
Oh,
so Doom.
I literally was about to say that.
Yeah, like I said, it's not hard to do. Is a Doom Patrol villain and member of the Brotherhood of Evil, not to be confused with that other one. Right. Or from Fallout. Her powers consist of elasticity and body shaping to disguise her appearance. She also appeared in Teen Titans animated series and again Doctor Who. Which is probably why she got this part in first, because she damn sure made a really good kind of sort of villain in Doctor Who. Next up, in advance of the Justice League Snyder Cut being released a week from now, it's going to be out next week. Yeah. We may or may not have time to watch it before our next show, but we will. If we do, we'll do our best not to spoil anything. I don't care enough to
that's
do that.
New or added. What?
I don't care enough to do that.
I'll probably watch it sometime over next week. We'll see if I have a chance to fit it in before the show, but I doubt it. Because it's not like something that you can fit in over breakfast or lunch like WandaVision.
No, it's going to be 4 hours off the rip.
Right. So, but Zack Snyder teased fans with a brief explanation of why the dynamic between Darkseid and Steppenwolf is, quote, very complicated, unquote, in his upcoming Justice League film. So apparently some things happened in the past. Snyder said at IGN FanFest there's a bunch of issues between them. I think that all plays out. Snyder added the answer is there's quite a complex relationship there without divulging further. Okay.
Sure.
Next up.
Whatever. Scorpion, Katana, and Cage, Drum, and Drum of Blood. Everything we learned on our Mortal Kombat set visit. I know there's another article in here, but this one's from Sci-Fi. The original Mortal Kombat game, or as some would say, Mortal Kombat. Anyway, created by Ed Boon until Brian's made with games that you know what it is. It's been 26 years since the first Mortal Kombat movie hit theaters, and I feel like I need a rewatch. Despite critics generally unfavorable news. All right, we get to the point here. Sorry, Karama.
What year was the movie? The original movie?
Huh?
What year was the original movie?
It was 1995.
Oh, God.
Mm-hmm.
I did not watch it. Have not watched it.
Really?
Not going to watch it.
Wait, ever?
No, never watched it.
Oh, sir, you owe it to yourself. Well, you don't owe it to yourself, but you should. I think you should. It doesn't necessarily hold. I think it's still good. It's better than Annihilation, I would say, but
I'm sure
it's not
it was
a great.
Probably better than the Street Fighter movie with Jean-Claude Van Damme.
That's not hard to be. That is very much not hard to be.
I went to the theaters to watch that one with a buddy of mine. We were just like, "Oh man, what the hell did we just do?" I
think I did too. It is very much better than that. And again, that's not hard to be. But no, it's some would say along the lines of a dumb action movie, but it's also Street Fighter. So, and yeah, it was under the lens of 95 and not really people understanding. But they did kind of understand it. They tried it. So it was a better one of those, I guess. Anyway, so yeah, it's been a while, and basically Sci-Fi had a chance to go to talk to Simon McCoy and producer Todd Garner, whose apparently credentials are XXX State of the Union, say what you will about that, and The One, oh dear, and E. Bennett Walsh, After Earth and Edge of Darkness. Again, say what you will about those. Along with several cast members about what it took to bring one of the most anticipated movies in recent years to the big screen. And Sci-Fi pretty much tells you the thing. You can read the article for yourself because they could do a few different things. But I know they basically do say this, like, yeah, the action, the martial arts fights is going to be some real deal joint. Like, this is going to be some good stuff. Like, they've pretty much been playing up the fight scenes. And judging by the Red Band trailer, I'm hoping that's actually true because they definitely do a good showing on that. I don't know if you still saw the trailer because you weren't really interested in it in the first place, but yeah.
I have not watched it. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. No big deal. Next up.
I was about to say if the old Mortal Kombat movie is streaming somewhere, maybe I'll take a look at it.
But it was, and I want to say it might be still on Netflix, or is it on Netflix, or I will do that while you read this next one.
Alrighty, so Dynamite Entertainment has sold the film, television, and streaming rights to one of its most beloved properties, Vampirella. Now listen to this name of a production company. Mike the Pike Productions subsidiary Arowana Media Holdings has secured the rights from Dynamite in a deal that includes all Vampirella stories, characters, and derivative works. Vampirella was created by Forrest J. Ackerman and Trina Robbins in 1969's Vampirella Number 1 from Warren Publishing. I did not realize that Vampirella was a relatively recent creation.
I didn't either, but we know Dark Horse has been pretty much hinging everything they have on her, comic book wise. Dynamite. What did I say?
Yeah, you said Dark Horse, but
yeah, sorry. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, that sounds like a sketchy production company. I'm not gonna.
I was gonna say no comment. I'm like, what a name.
Yeah. So, well, if they do something about it, then with it, so be it. But going back to the Mortal Kombat thing, it is streaming on Fubo, and you can rent it from Hoopla, which is basically you can rent it from your library.
Okay.
If you have a library card in Hoopla and are part of Hoopla, which you should, because they do have comic books and movies and stuff there. You should definitely be checking out, and audiobooks, obviously. This is not a plug for them. It kind of sort of is, I guess. But we're not being sponsored. Yes. And also Annihilation is also on Hoopla. But you can rent them, anywhere. You can rent both those movies.
Is that the sequel movie?
Yes, Annihilation is the sequel. Yes.
Annihilation. Oh, okay. I was about to say, I'm like, I know that Marvel didn't put out a movie called Annihilation, so
no,
it's
not
gotta be
yet.
something else.
Yeah, not yet. But yeah, you can rent those from Hoopla, or you can rent or buy from pretty much any place else digitally. Eduardo Miranda Rodriguez and Rosario Dawson want Netflix to produce a La Borinquena TV series, and
You know how that's
too.
pronounced? Before you move on,
Please enlighten me.
I've met Edgardo Miranda Rodriguez before,
Edgardo,
and
okay.
he coached me on how to pronounce the hero's name.
Okay.
And it's an awful way to keep it in your mind, but it's actually pronounced like two separate words: boring and Kenya.
Born in Kenya.
Country's name, yeah.
So I was not far off.
Right, but that was the tip that he gave me.
Right. So pretty much almost like it looks. Okay. Good to know. Thank you. So yeah. Comic book artist Edgardo Miranda Rogers isn't going to wait around for opportunities to come knocking his door. He's taking the initiative and letting Netflix knows what he wants. February 28th, Miranda Rodriguez pitched Netflix on the idea of producing a live-action TV series based on his Afro-Latina superhero, Labyrinth Kenya. I'm still gonna do that. My mouth don't fix up.
I tried.
I know my mouth. It's just the way my mouth works. I can't even do nothing about that. But regardless, with an all Latinx cast and shot on location in Puerto Rico, his tweet comes in days after the streaming giant released a study that shows its Latinx representation was sorely lacking. And all I can say is we've been new, because they just really started bumping up the black stuff, and and that was partially due to not to be fair, they've been doing it before Black History Month, but like that whole initiative just started within the last 6 months to a year. So yeah. Anyway, they're basically trying to get it done, and sounds like Rosario Dawson is also on board as a producer. Sounds like, because I know she's been doing a good bit of that. So yeah, we'll see if that comes into it. I kind of hope it does, because I remember what I read of that, and it was actually some good stuff. Even if I don't have the cultural touchstone for it, it was still a good read. Next up,
the Star Trek Voyager documentary from production company 455 Films has crowdfunded a staggering $625,000 after only a week, which will expand the scope and runtime of the documentary film based on the Star Trek Voyager show, which ran from 1995 to 2001 on the UPN network. Okay.
So worth noting, if you had any question about the 455 Films, and I had to just look this up because I wanted to make sure. This is the same people who did that DS9 documentary, which was great, I thought. Also the For the Love of Spock documentary. So there's a lot of Star Trek stuff that they've done. I think probably specifically, I'd almost dare say specifically for that reason. Because also that Whitney Sheridan's film, The Captains, which, that stuff. So that they pretty much did all that stuff, including one that I did not know about. So yes, and it sounds like this is getting crowdfunded again. So along the lines, if it's anything like the DS9 one, it's probably going to be a pretty good documentary once it comes out. Next up,
did you see the document? You saw the Deep Space Nine?
Oh, absolutely! I saw it in theaters. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think I saw it streaming it's on YouTube now, right?
It is on YouTube now, and yeah, you can buy it, and you can still buy it on Blu-ray or whatever. But yeah, it is on YouTube with free with ads.
Right. So I think I watched this. It was pretty good.
Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it, but I'm also a fan of DS9, so that's probably a slight bias.
Same.
Yeah, probably a slight bias. The Notorious B.I.G. turns into hip hop superhero in animated short for Netflix doc. So again, going back to what we said originally at the show, March life was the anniversary of Biggie's death. But before that happened, on the 1st, Netflix put out a documentary called Biggie, I Got a Story to Tell, which I see people have been liking.
It was good. I liked it.
Oh, you already watched it? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I had intended to watch it on the 9th, but didn't get around to doing it. So I'm definitely going to probably watch it sometime this weekend. It says here the film looked back at the life of Christopher Wallace after his induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2020, and ahead of what would have been his 50th birthday. Jeez. Wow. And CBR says here that
it shows how old we are too. That's the problem.
Right.
That's the worst part, because when Big was shot, he was only 24.
Right.
So.
And I'm like 2 years away from where he would have been right now.
Yep.
Ridiculous. So basically, long story short, there was an animated short that CBR has shout out to Tim also for putting this one out. I don't know if this was this in the documentary at some point, or
this is new to me, which is wild, because I watched the documentary, so I don't recall this. I have it up on mute on my end just to look at the animated battle.
Right.
So it's interesting.
So yeah.
So I'm not listening to it. But it doesn't look like anything I've seen yet.
Right. So basically, as this article says, it's a film by a core team of Black animators who imagine a young Christopher Wallace inventing the notorious Big B.I.G. in his bedroom as a hip-hop superhero. I did check out this, and it was a cool little short. It's not long; it's only a couple of minutes, and it's kind of an almost anime style, but not really. But it's worth a watch if you are so interested in either in the documentary or any kind of animated fashion. And it is basically I don't know if it's a song. I can't remember what song it was, or if it's a song that one would know. But it's a good little short. Definitely check it out with sound on. Oh right, it's that. It's the freestyle. Yeah,
it's the freestyle battle.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely check it out. Regardless. And now we are going to move on to the comic book news. Wow, doubled up. Nice. Batman teases a familiar face in Gotham City's new commissioner. We talked about this earlier with Batman's second son, but I didn't exactly. Actually, I might have said it. So it's Renee Montoya becomes the mayor. I mean, it's not the mayor. It becomes, so basically in 2, she gets approached by the mayor to become the new commissioner. In 3, which came out this week, she accepts it. Spoiler alert. But again, like I said, if you read Future State, you probably already knew this because she was already in position. Next up.
Alrighty, next up. So there's a spoiler alert from last week's Infinite Frontier number 0, which confirms the death metal resurrection of a major DC hero. Spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert.
Major though?
What's that?
Major though?
It depends on the branch or the part of the DC Comics universe you are a fan of. So if you follow whatchamacallit, a certain wave of heroes, or if you've been like one of those like ardent Titans followers, where as I dropped off relatively early on and you followed it and you kept following it, Roy Harper has seemingly revived from his earlier death as a result of his role in Dark Knight's death metal. So it's not clear what's next for him, but he has been revived as of Infinite Frontier number 0.
Major though? Okay. Anyway. Next up, and don't at me, I know people like Roy Harper, so whatever. Young Justice's Teen Lantern just hit a Green Lantern milestone. And this is, I guess, spoilers from Green Lantern's, I guess it's a backup story in Infinite Frontier 0, or one of the stories in Infinite Frontier 0, which I still have yet to read. The short story is her, Jon Stewart, and Simon Baz. Well, Simon Baz and Jon Stewart take her to Oa. That's pretty much it. So that's cool. And if you know anything about Teen Lantern, you know she pretty much hacked her way into her powers, and I assume that is probably why they took her to Oa, as this article kind of mentions. So that's good. That's cool. Hopefully nothing bad happened after that, because I didn't read it, but I would suspect not. Next up.
Or at least not yet.
Well,
right?
yeah.
So Suicide Squad's new speedster makes Kryptonite more lethal than ever. This is a spoiler alert for Future State Suicide Squad number 2. So apparently, they introduced an aerosol version of green kryptonite that is incredibly fast acting and lethal to all Kryptonians. Oof, that's tough.
I know, right? You breathe that stuff in, that's your ass. Which I feel like, wait, didn't they do that in Batman Superman?
No comment.
Moving right along.
Comment. I have no idea. Whatever.
Wonder Woman 770 begins, which came out this week, by the way, begins a D&D style campaign with side quests, helpful characters, and a squirrel, who's probably not a girl. So yeah, according to this, and this is an article that has an interview with Becky Cloonan and Michael W. Conrad, I believe, on that. So you can go check that out for the article itself and find out what all, if anything that was just said appeals to you. Definitely check that out. Next
up, so James Tynion IV is introducing another new character to Gotham City. Tynion's already added characters like Punchline and Clown Hunter to the ranks of Batman supporting cast and Rogues Gallery, that is. He's using April's Batman number 107 to introduce readers to another new character. The character's name is the Gardener, and it looks like she might feature some poison, but apparently now Queen Ivy-ish traits. So,
wait, when did Ivy become a queen?
I'm sorry?
When did Ivy become a queen?
I don't know. That's what's in the article.
Okay.
Various bat titles are planting seeds. For a key poison ivy thread that's going to be playing out in Gotham across many titles in 2021. Okay.
Judging by this top image, I can see people doing a cosplay of it.
It's not going to be hard.
No, but there'll be some first, I'm sure. Nika's awesomely inexpensive 1989 Batman Batarang replica is back in stock. And I don't know why, but it doesn't really look like that. But I don't think I've ever gotten a close-up look of the Batarang from that movie. Shout out to the Batman 89 fans out there. I know one of you are out there. Batman fans, especially the ones that are fond of Tim Burton's 1989 film, starring Michael Keaton, are going to love this Batarang replica from Nika. For starters, it's a full-size replica that measures 13 inches long. It even folds up for easy storage in her bat suit. However, the biggest feature on this replica is the price, which is only $17. And it's going to be sold at Walmart. And after the launch with an exclusive window back in... so I guess it's been out in... it was sold out at Walmart when it came out in February, but now it's back in stock, and Entertainment Earth has them if you want them. For shipment. And it looks like they also have Batman Arkham City's Nightwing's Excrema stick prop replica, which you can see if you're watching the video. It is measures 12 inches when retracted and springs open to 18 inches, and it's $35. Also at Entertainment Earth, which I'm pretty sure this place has a sponsor with or something. Otherwise, they wouldn't be mentioning that so heavily. Next up.
All right. Oh my goodness. Flash Gordon. Flash.
There we go.
And the Defenders of Earth, actually, return with NECA. That's the other way of pronouncing the toy company, right?
I know, but...
I know, I've heard both, so that's why I wasn't going to say anything. I was like, I'll just do it the other way. So NECA has created 3 figures so far for Defenders of Earth, and each is packed with amazing articulation, detail, and accessories. They've already started to hit Walmart stores now, and they have gone up for line orders from a variety of retailers. So this is the 35th anniversary of Defenders of the Earth, and wow, already.
I know, right?
And goodness gracious. Each figure sells for $29.99 and can also be purchased as a bundle for $89.99 for the whole first wave. That's wild.
I totally have a sound effect for Defenders of the Earth, but I can't find it right now. So, you know, dun 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 dun. And also, I just recently watched a Toy Galaxy on Defenders of the Earth, which I already knew about it, but sometimes those, you know, like toys how they made it or whatever that show is, it's kind of interesting to watch. So you can check that out on YouTube if you feel so inclined. Next up, though, speaking of action figures, 1980's Battle Beyond the Stars, which I know a lot of y'all folks won't know anything about, spawns new Sybil Danning action figure. So yeah, Battle Beyond the Stars was an 80s movie, folks, if y'all did not know. Like, specifically 1980, I believe. I can't remember. Yeah. Regardless, it was an old bootleg B-movie, sci-fi movie. This is one of the characters. Here's a figure for it. You know, and people of a certain vintage will probably are freaking losing their minds right now, but only a certain vintage. Next up.
All right, I'm scrolling. All right. Baby Yoda is now a talking clapper nightlight. Really?
It was bound to happen. It's everything else. Baby Yoda diapers.
So that's funny. So NECA is putting out this new Star Wars clapper. It actually features a pretty cool sculpt of Grogu in his pod, and you clap twice to operate the appliance like the classic clapper, or 3 times to turn on the Baby Yoda nightlight and hear these Grief Karga and the Mandalorian quotes from the show. Come on, baby, do the magic hand thing, and the kid is coming with me. Wait a second. All right. So before I move on, this is $29.99, available at Entertainment Earth.
Mm-hmm.
So you're telling me that if you clap, you don't get Baby Grogu's cooing sound when he responds to Mando saying Grogu, and he goes, huh?
Right.
That's not what we get. We get Grief Karga and Mando talking instead. Seriously?
To be fair, it does say well, oh, I thought it said like. Never mind. I was about to whatever. Yeah, so this is the clapper, folks. Come on. What are you expecting? I agree with you. That's a total missed opportunity.
They could have fit it in, because if all they're gonna do is have 2 sound effects, they could have a short third one like that.
Right, and it doesn't, and especially with memory these days. No, you could probably put a whole season of quotes in there if they really wanted to. But again,
there's also a Baby Yoda Chia Pet.
Mm-hmm. Which you can see if you're watching the video.
Oh no.
So yeah, you know, the brand is still strong. It's $20. And yeah, that's the thing. By the way, I don't know if y'all heard that or not, but that's I had to find it. The Defenders of the Earth. Anyway, this massive life-size Venom statue will set you back $13K. When I originally read that, I was like, $13, that's not much. But wait, no, that's a K. That's not, those are zeros behind that, folks. If you ever wanted a lifestyle statue of Venom, I feel like we know somebody who probably does, and just happen to have $13,000 burning a hole in your pocket, you're in luck. This October, Beast Kingdom is releasing a one-to-one statue of Marvel Comics' Venom. Why? The LS078 Marvel Comics
that
Venom
takes up a lot of space in your house.
Yeah, is made from fiber reinforced polymer and comes in at a whopping 220 centimeters, just over 7 feet tall. Good gracious. The statue comes with a stone-clad platform and an individually numbered plaque. Not to mention the hefty price tag of $12,900 USDs. Now, I would like to give a shout out to former guest of the show, Seek Donnelly, who is a noted Venom fan. And I'm very curious to know if he knows about this. Whether he would be able to get it or not, I don't know. But, that's ridiculous. If you're watching the video, you can see a picture of it, of the thing right there. 7 foot tall. Who? Good luck trying to move that in and out of your house if you have to move. Next up.
Well, presumably you could take it apart. So.
Presumably.
Alrighty, next up.
It's a Build-A-Figure. It's a life-size Build-A-Figure.
Seriously. Shop Disney gets an exclusive WandaVision Scarlet Witch doll. So that's another thing that we kind of skirted past.
Mm-hmm.
We get the final transformation of the Scarlet Witch over the course of the series into a very kind of movie-esque adaptation of her comic book uniforms.
Well, it's close to it is also close to recent a most recent but also probably no doubt MCU tinged comic cartoon things. So yeah.
All right, when I say movie-esque, there's a certain aesthetic that they
you're right.
all have,
Mm-hmm.
and it's part of how they're put together, and this definitely carries that along.
Yeah.
So in response to as WandaVision came to an end, there's a few things that they obviously didn't want to spoil, and luckily they did a better job here than with Baby Yoda stuff, having stuff ready to launch. They learned from Baby Yoda. They had stuff ready to launch as soon as the new look that the Scarlet Witch title being bestowed and Wanda's look being modified and updated came out. They had toys ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
So this is exclusive doll available on Shop Disney stands 10.5 inches tall and features 22 points of articulation and is retailing for $44.99. There's also Marvel Legends out there, Diamond Select out there, and Pops out there. There's lots of WandaVision merch out there now in the wake of the conclusion of the series.
Yep, the stuff we've talked about and you would expect, including kind of this. Also, Kim's Convenience has apparently been canceled.
Yes, that's that came out earlier this week.
Yeah, bummer. Even though I have not really watched enough of that show. Marvel's Avengers making major changes to XP and cosmetics. So there is a new update that's coming on the 18th, which is next week, and it's going to roll up a bunch of changes. I will not go through all of them now, but if you play that game, it should hopefully make some things better. The max character level has been up to 50. And you can replay the story like it's potentially replay the story, as I said, and hopefully, well, they're slowing down the grind for some stupid reason. I don't know why you would do that, especially in that game, the way it came out. But here we go. Next up, as we mentioned earlier, I don't think that book was out actually this week. I didn't see it in the comic list. I have to check Diamond though. I think we might have gotten a preview of it. That Captain America book that we were talking about, right?
During reviews, but here in the news section, as I mentioned earlier, 2021 marks the 80th anniversary of Captain America's 1941 debut in Captain America Comics #1. To celebrate, Marvel's bringing all 4 modern wielders of the S.H.I.E.L.D. together in a 5-issue series titled The United States of Captain America. So that includes Steve Rogers, Sam Wilson, John Walker, and Bucky Barnes, who are going to set out on a road trip across America to recover the shield of Captain America, which has been stolen. In addition to a framing story from writer Christopher Cantwell and artist Dale Eaglesham, the limited series will bring in an all-star lineup of diverse and extraordinary creative teams who will showcase brand new heroes inspired by the legacy of Captain America in each stop of their trip, starting with writer Joshua Trujillo and artist Jan Bazaldua. This is set to come out June 2nd.
Mm-hmm. They could have done without John Walker. Next up, they could have put. I know Nomad wasn't an actual Cap. I don't think, but still, they could have put Nomad in there. Anyway, In potentially a bummer news, Luke Cage becomes a top cop for Marvel this summer.
But you know where this is coming.
I know,
right?
I know,
Yeah.
I know. The 2021 event, Heroes Reborn, takes inspiration from the 90s event, and that's still a bummer. Excuse me, and is growing to include another 90s Marvel brand, Marvel Knights. This June's Heroes Reborn American Knights #1 reframes the loose assemblage of street-level heroes into a squad led by Police Commissioner Luke Cage. That's right, Police Commissioner Luke Cage. Still kind of a bummer regardless. In this art reality of Heroes Reborn, many of Marvel's characters have been tweaked and in some cases transformed into new roles. And here the world's dominant superhero team, the Squadron Supreme of America, has put cop boss Luke Cage on the job of curtailing anybody from acting as vigilantes. Sounds familiar in a couple of different respects, especially given recent actual events in comic world. I'm talking about Future State, folks, and Outlawed. Anyway, next up,
Hornet combines Spider-Man and Iron Man's tech against the King in Black. Okay, so this is the latest tie-in to Marvel Comics' King in Black series. It sees the return of classic Marvel hero Hobie Brown, aka the Prowler, now returning to active duty as the Hornet. Really, this is news to me.
Okay,
I was about to say no, like obviously Bill Cosby's lost a lot of shine, but I have a distinct. You know what I'm saying? There is a distinct correlation or connotation with a black character taking on the name of the title of the Hornet.
You let me know if there is a reference to that. I'm not going to read it. You let me know if there is a reference to it. That would be a missed opportunity if they didn't do that. Also, even the logo kind of looks like the Brown Hornet thing. But it's a Hornet. What do you expect?
Wait, hold on. There's more to the story.
Yes,
Holy cow, I had to read. So writer Mark Bernardin, you know, the Mark Bernardin of Fat Man Beyond, and artist Kyle Hotz's King in Black, Planet of the Symbiotes #2, marks Hobie's superheroic debut as the Hornet. So this was so when is this out? Was this out last week? Is this something I got to rewind and get back to? I think it was.
Maybe. It was 4 days ago. So wait, hold on a second. Scroll.
Just checking my iPad now.
Doesn't say right off ban, or it could be glossing totally over it, but it's probably already out.
What was the title? King in Black.
Planet of the Symbiotes #2.
I don't see it in our files for last week.
Maybe it's not out yet.
Interesting.
While readers have yet to see Hobie in action in the full Hornet gear, even the base suit was enough to repel so yeah. But it doesn't say when this came out or when it will.
Now I'm gonna have to look for that. That's funny.
Good luck. Next
up. I gotta see what the character looked like. Well, I mean, it's probably in the article. I didn't have the article up. So.
Yeah, well, there is an image. It's not a full body image, but yes, it is. There is an image. Not brown. Spoiler.
Well, that's the point. They're avoiding any copyright stuff, but
right. I mean, it's still spoiler coverage.
Wasn't Hornet one of the slingers?
Maybe.
Remember that Spidey had? Yeah, it is. It is. Spidey. He's taking on that identity from that slingers group.
I vaguely remember that. But yeah, again, it's still spoiler colors, but yeah, so. Which I assume maybe it wasn't then. Also, I don't remember. You know what? Let us move on. Marvel's.
I'm saying it's just wild that they gave it to whatchamacallit, an established black male character.
I would like to believe
they have to be of a certain vintage to get the reference, and I'm like, oh my god.
Yes.
Call him the Brown Hornet.
Again, missed opportunity if they did not, and I don't know if that's gonna ever come up or it has come up because I assume you watch Batman Beyond often enough to where they would have said something, right?
I might have missed it. You know, they go very long like we do.
Yes. So speaking to keep from doing that so any longer than
Right.
we already have, it's official. Deadpool and Elsa Bloodstone apparently dating. Weird. Elsa Bloodstone is a monster hunter. Deadpool is a questionable, maybe not mutant anymore, who is the king of Monster Island or Staten Island, as you know, whatever happened with that whole thing. And now they may or may not be dating thanks to Deadpool number 9. Weird. Next up,
this is spoilers for New Mutants number 16.
which was last week.
Apparently, the Shadow King now has the ability to swap multiple personalities between multiple bodies all at once by fusing his powers with No Girl. It's part of that whole fusion thing that has been all the rage, the power circuit thing that's in the X books.
Mm-hmm. Fusion. Yeah, we mentioned this when we talked about New Mutant 16, but didn't get into the fact of, you know, in his relation to how he affected folks that was around with her powers or what he did. So, but that's the thing. The future of mutant kind is revealed in planet-sized X-Men. They are really going with these adjectives. Or efforts, I don't know. Regardless, this June, let me shut up. This June, the Hellfire Trading Company invites readers everywhere to the inaugural Hellfire Gala as they announce the first team of Krakoan X-Men to the world. Yes, that still hasn't happened yet. And reveal the startling plans that mutant kind has in store for the Marvel Universe. The highly anticipated comics event will unfold in the issues of your favorite ongoing X-Men series, as well as planet-sized X-Men. Planet-sized X-Men. A special double-sized one-shot from two of Mutant Kind's most masterful creators, writer Jerry Duggan of Marauders and Savage Avengers fame, and artist Pepe Larraz of House of X. The Hellfire Gala rages on in one of the most pivotal chapters yet in Jonathan Hickman's X-Men era. But even bigger things are afoot in a world away. Also, Rouge. Next up.
Oh, Rouge. All right. So you can see here in this article, Cindy Moon in action with in Silk number 1 by Maureen Gu and written by Maureen Gu and with art by Takeshi Miyazawa. And I'm a big fan of Tak Miyazawa's art, so it's good to see him back on a Marvel book. So March 31st, we're going to get Silk number 1. So it is not far from now. So I'm looking forward to this. And Roddykat is probably scrolling through some of the preview art for this book out in 2 weeks. Make sure to add that to your pull list.
Yeah, I want to catch up to. I know I've said this before, but you know, Silk started in Spider-Verse, and I keep saying I'm gonna go back and just go through the whole due diligence and go through Rosolo stuff, and that's at this point is actually a little bit. So that's probably not going to happen. Well, I still got a couple of weeks, but I kind of just wanted to do it just for my own sake, just for science. I like the character of Silk, even though I don't, haven't read too totally much of her. Outside of Agents of Atlas and a couple other places. Next up, Heroes Reborn 5 through 7 and Heroes Reborn one-shot covers from Marvel Comics. Let's see. So basically. Let's see. On sale in June, the story marches to its starting climax in Heroes Reborn 5 through 7, as the history and future of this world is unveiled. And apparently there are there's at least one cover, which you can see here, from Night Gwen. There you go. I think there's some more covers which I don't see in this article, but apparently they're oh yeah, here's the gallery down at the bottom, which you can go and check out in the article in the show notes for yourself. And they're also listing the stuff that's coming around that time. Next up, so possible spoilers, but this is also part of the Heroes Reborn event this summer. Marvel announced Heroes Reborn one-shot
this time paying homage to the night Gwen Stacy died. It's Heroes Reborn Marvel Double Action #1, written by Tim Seeley and illustrated by Dan Jurgens. The cover by Dave Johnson shows a reimagining of the night Gwen Stacy died, with Falcon apparently meeting his tragic end and Nighthawk swearing vengeance on the Green Goblin.
Ooh. Also, Marvel Double Action and that aforementioned Night Gwen and that Luke Cage one also was in that last article that we talked about. So there you go. WandaVision sends West Coast Avengers issues prices soaring. Slightly not surprising, but somewhat. Throughout WandaVision, one of the most major influence on TV series has been John Byrne's relatively brief run on West Coast Avengers West Coast, because that's when it changed the name to that. A run that later directly influenced two other major works. I almost thought that was a Force Works reference there, but okay. That inspired WandaVision. Brian Michael Bendis and David Finch's Avengers Assembled, and Bendis and Olivier Coipel's House of M. Now those connections are leading to a sharp rise in the secondary market for the back issues of Byrne's run, which makes sense because that's where we got Blank Vision.
That's right.
The biggest beneficiary has been West Coast Avengers for #45, the introduction of the White Vision, which has been going up in value as WandaVision debuted and then took a sharp jump in price when White Vision debuted on WandaVision. I somewhere hopefully still have my copies of that whole run of West Coast Avengers. And if you can see from the article, from the video, if you're watching the video, and you should sometimes, dear readers and listeners, or dear listeners, West Coast Avengers 42 is being shown right now, the cover of which starts Vision Quest, which leads up into 45 and the introduction to Blank Vision, White Vision. There you go. Next.
WandaVision success also leads to a run on related comics, leaving Marvel out of stock for months. If you're jonesing for more WandaVision-esque action and looking for comics for the answers, you might be limited if you want it in print. Marvel Comics has informed retailers that its 4 primarily WandaVision-related comics collections sold out at the distributor level back in February, and new printings will not be ready until the end of April. The Vision Complete Collection, Vision and Scarlet Witch, The Saga of Wanda and Vision, House of M, and Scarlet Witch by James Robinson, the complete collection, are all on back order, with whatever copies comic shops and bookstores have now to be it until April 21st at the earliest. So that includes the Tom King and Gabriel Hernandez Walter series. That's the Vision Complete Collection.
Mm-hmm. Or you can go to Marvel Unlimited, which is not a sponsor of the show, and read them.
Right.
For yourself at a measly price of $7 a month. That's not measly because Anyway,
I was about to say budgets are budgets. That's
exactly. Yeah, that's what I got it. But Yen Press licenses Bunko, Stray Dogs, Beast, more, and other manga. So yeah, more manga on the way from Yen Press, including probably one of my favorite. Well, I can't say it's one of my favorites, but I do like Bunko Stray Dogs. It's the anime. I've never read the manga. But for $13 in August, you can get Bunko Stray Dogs Beast by Kafka Asagiri and other folks. If you know anything about Bunko Stray Dogs, you might be interested in this. And there you go. But there's also stuff that you can read in the article. Next.
All right. It remains to be seen if God of War Ragnarok, the video game, is still releasing in 2021 as promised. However, fans can look forward to at least one new God of War project this year. Dark Horse Comics is about to launch its next God of War tie-in comic, Fall God. And IGN in this article has an exclusive preview of the opening chapter. This aims to fill in a major missing period in the bloody career of Kratos. Okay. It's a 4-issue miniseries.
And that came out this week, I believe, that first issue, if I'm not mistaken. Because I feel like we did have it in our or maybe not.
It's Dark Horse, so we probably didn't have it.
Yeah, I thought we got it, so maybe we didn't. I stand corrected. But regardless, it's out. It will be out there when it gets out there. But I do believe it did actually. Yeah, Wednesday, March 5th. So it did actually come out. We probably just didn't get it
last week.
Yeah, or this week. But yeah,
March 5th. You said?
no, March 10th.
Oh, 10th.
I might have.
Okay.
Yeah. Booms. Oh, you get the good one for last. Lucky. Boom Studios will release an Ashcan edition of Magic #1, its new comic in the universe of Magic the Gathering, next week. And I believe that is next week as of this week. No, that might be this week actually. But again, we did not. I don't think we got that, did we? Boom, we should have gotten it. Because I don't know how I missed that if that's the case. But regardless, I will, maybe it'll be something on that. The company announced that Ashcan will be distributed one per qualifying store. The Ashcan will preview the first issue and include exclusive back matter. Boom also revealed 4 pages from the Ashcan, and it's in the gallery below of this article if you're also interested in that. So I guess that's the Ashcan and not necessarily the series itself. But yeah, stay tuned for that, because I will probably talk about it if it's worth talking about it, because I think that's a Jed McKay book. So yeah, looking forward to that. Last but not least,
wow, this is interesting. So we are getting a new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, and it looks glorious. So this game is in the works. It's going to be an old school beat 'em up title in the vein of the 1989 and 1991 arcade titles. Now, people of a certain vintage will remember these classic beat 'em up side scrolling games, and they were awesome.
And this
I
one,
wasted so much time. I cut class to play these games because they were around the corner in the newsstand in the back of like a dingy old bodega in on First Avenue, Manhattan. And I definitely was late to class or cut class because we were on a roll and got like 4 people together to play. So, but let me finish the news, so we could talk about our and reminisce about our experiences with this. Publisher Dotemu dropped the news with the trailer that sent nostalgia through the roof. The video starts as a throwback to the original TMNT cartoon show before showing the full cast and some actual gameplay. The game is rendered with old school digital sprites, just like the original arcade titles. But more importantly, you and 3 friends can play as all 4 Ninja Turtles in the game. The trailer also hints the Turtles won't be the only ones fighting the evil villains. The video also depicts April O'Neil beating up foot soldiers, and then Master Splinter riding on a skateboard to take out a robot drone. Hold on. Dotemu plans on releasing the new TMNT game for PC and consoles. The upcoming game also has a page on Steam, but for now, Dotemu has not announced a release date or price. Wow.
I don't know if that's how they pronounce the name, but I'm gonna go with it also because I don't actually know how they pronounce. Because I was saying .emu, but I don't know. It's not.
I was about to say, don't get me started. After binging through Attack on Titan, I now can't pronounce what usually was a pretty easy volleyball company name, and now it's pronounced a different way in the anime. So I'm all messed up.
It happens. But I watched this trailer a couple of different times. Like, yeah, it definitely starts off with a cinematic that you referenced, and also goes into what looks to be some gameplay. And it looks like they were putting some love into it. Tribute Games did so .emu was the publisher on that last Streets of Rage. They didn't do the dev work, but they did the publishing on it. Worth noting on that. But that Streets of Rage one was good. The Tribute Games, who is doing this, did Mercenary Kings, which is not a lot of people, but I enjoyed it, and a few people enjoyed it. Kind of I don't know if it was like a 16-bit game or anything, but it was pretty good regardless. And if you watch this trailer, it looks like they're putting some love into this from all tales from this trailer. So I am looking forward to checking this Joker out when it comes out. And Agent 70, definitely check out the trailer when you get a chance.
I was just playing it while on mute, so I was just looking. I mean, the beginning is, the gameplay is towards the end is only maybe like 15, 20 seconds of it, but it looks like so much fun.
Yeah. The only thing I had a problem with the trailer is the music. Like they do the obvious rendition of the theme, but it seems a little rushed.
Yeah. Well, they're
Yeah.
trying to fit in a lot.
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
I guess trying to hype people up. That's really what it is.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's enough to still get you nostalgic for it, but it's like, but I couldn't not notice it.
Oh yeah, that was played at like a enhanced speed or increased speed.
Well, no, it wasn't even an increased speed. It's just that it's a different rendition that's a little bit faster than the original version.
I get it.
In the way it goes off, but yeah, like I said, you'll when you'll check it out. I'm sure we'll talk about it after the fact. But yeah, so that is that, and yeah, like Agent 70, I plunked in a bunch of quarters on the Turtles machine, including Turtles in Time. Now that I think about it, back in the arcade, back in the day. So again, looking forward to this when this comes out. No release date. That's right. I forgot about that. There is a Steam page for it, and I know it's probably going to go into all consoles. But there's no firm date on it just yet. So I would assume by the end of this year, if I were to hazard a guess, but we don't know.
Video games take time, unfortunately.
They do, but depending on how far along they are when they start talking about them, you can, given barring any other situations, unlike COVID and like COVID, you can put a pretty good time frame on them. Like if they're announcing it now, it's a decent chance it could be this year, especially with the couple of seconds of gameplay they got. But that's not necessarily saying that's true. So yeah, but that's, folks, is the last news bit for tonight. We got one more ad read.
Our last ad read of the night is for Amazon. Help us keep our podcast free by shopping at Amazon. Visit cspn.us and click the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down and click on the Amazon link to shop. Purchase items from Amazon as you normally would, whether it's books, music, electronics, jewelry, apparel, or Marvel Legends. For every purchase made on Amazon through our link, Amazon sends the CSPN a payment that helps us keep the Comic Book Chronicles podcast free for our listeners at no extra cost to you. Amazon.com through CSPN.us. Do it today.
As we come to an end of another exciting episode of this here Comic Book Chronicles, thank you for sticking with us this long, because I realize this is probably one of our longest ones yet. Yeah.
We did start late, though. It was my fault this time. So we did start late. So sorry about that for anyone who was looking for our live stream today.
Indeed. But on that note, I have been Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News on Twitter, CBCaps on Instagram. Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram. PC_Dirt on Twitter, PopCultureNet on Twitter, PopCultureNetwork.com, and those umbrella sites therein, and also maybe possibly still bite under comic reviews. Tim, DOGG98 on Twitter, the Osiris of this ish. You can also find him at CB Cron on Twitter, which is the Comic Book Chronicles Twitter account. Say hey, how you doing? All that kind of good jazz. You can also find him at The Click Nation on Twitter. That's DKLIQNATION, theclicknation.com. And also, of course, Comic Book Resources, where he's over there writing his face off. You can find this here podcast on the Phrase That Pays, because I keep wanting to say that every time. I do not know why. But you can definitely find us on the Coastal Podcast Network. That's CSPN.us.
Do it today.
You can also find us on your podcast perusal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coastal Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. Yeah, I don't know what happened there, but
it's a slip of the mouse button.
That's fine. But you can also find us here each and every Thursday night when we record live, 9:30-ish p.m. We do emphasize the ish sometimes. In fact, I had to do that recently, and and now you know why. But 9:30-ish p.m. on youtube.com/theclicknation or twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles. And thank you for folks that came through tonight on the Twitch channel, by the way.
Thank you. Hit like and subscribe.
All that. We will be back next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. For another episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. So with that, I say peace.
Peace. One.
And knowing is half the battle.